time is 6:45. I'd like to call to order the public input for the Every Student Succeeds Act ESSA federal grant funds to order at 6:45.
All right, good evening. Are you going to do it or are you going to do it? Okay, just like you did, Lee. Tonight we are going to review our federal allotments from the Every Student Succeeds Act. They are federal allotments that are not, even though they're called a grant, an allotment means that we are guaranteed, if we meet a certain criteria each year, that we would get this allotment. Doesn't always end up being we're getting the same amount, but it means we're getting the allotment. So we're going to start off with our Title I allotment, Part A, which is our largest allotment. This allotment is in the amount of $493,428. We need to mark that it is decreased this year $73,255, and with an increase from the year before of around $85,000. So in the last, since the 2024 budget, we have lost about $150,000 in Title I. Title I, the purpose is to ensure that children, particularly low achieving children in the highest poverty schools, have a fair, equal, and significant opportunity to obtain a high quality education. All of our campuses are Title I campuses with the exception of Legacy. They do not meet the criteria. The basic criteria is to have a certain number of those students qualifying for free and reduced lunch. We use these funds, for the majority of the funds, to pay our reading and math interventionists at Posman and Main Street Elementary. We pay an interventionist for Taylor Middle School. We have a fabulous parent and family engagement, Mr. John Matthews, and we also have a homeless liaison to work with our McKinney-Vento kids, Yolanda Watson. So most of the funds in this account go to paying for those salaries to help. We do have small amounts used for the staff development for teachers. We are required to hold a reservations for homeless students or foster students, and we also have to meet a minimum requirement for parent engagement and parent engagement and professional development costs for parents. So does anybody have any questions about the Title I Part A allotment? Feel free. This is a hearing. It's open.
This is a public hearing, so anybody from the public, if they have questions regarding the information that's being presented, if you to recognize yourself and then ask that question. So is there any questions at this time? Seeing there, no one's on.
All right, thank you. The next federal fund is Title II, Part A. We were awarded for this school year $80,546, again, which is a decrease of $83,705. We have lost the most probably in this fund, given the size of it. We have lost about $45,000 over the last 2 years in this fund. The purpose of this fund, which is Title II, is to increase the academic achievement of all students by helping schools and school districts to improve teacher and principal quality. So the purpose of this fund is to can provide compensation for recruiting and retention if need be, leadership development for our principals and assistant principals, and we also use it for the majority of the funding to our teachers, our counselors, our paraprofessionals. In addition, this fund, one of the things that you need to know about our federal funding is that if you have a private or not a private or a non-for-profit school and they choose to, they're in our boundaries, we have to share any funds they wish to choose to participate in. In the time that I've been working with these funds, St. Mary's Catholic School participates in in this one alone. They don't participate in any of the other funds. So we share funds with St. Mary's on a per pupil basis. They are required to do the same thing we are. They provide training for their teachers and their staff with this. So does anybody have any questions about Title II? Okay. Title III. As Title III Part A is known as the Limited English Proficient or Bilingual Fund. The purpose of this fund is to ensure that children who are limited English proficient attain the English proficiency that they need to meet the state's standards. The amount, as you can see, is $57,306, which is a slight increase from what it's been. We spend actually the majority of the money on professional development for our bilingual, our ESL, or any teachers who would need training to work with students who meet the criteria of being a limited English proficient. We do use a good portion of it to, there are lots of paperwork and forms and committee decisions that go along with this that are known as the LPAC to purchase the software to manage that. We do parent involvement events, and we also provide instructional coaching and college and career readiness for our students as they get a little bit older. Does anybody have any questions about Title III? The last title is Title IV. One of the things that is very complicated, Title IV is a separate grant that is for student support and academic enrichment, but a district can have the choice to transfer any of Title IV or Title II to Title I. Title I is the one that impacts our students the most, and as we have lost funds in that fund, we now transfer 100% of our Title IV funds to Title I. That just simply means that we use this $41,988, which is a decrease of $4,699 in the same purposes that we use all of Title I funds. These funds in particular are what the campuses use to buy things that support their campuses and add in. When I say enrichment, it has to be something that is over and beyond of what we would preach. The best way to think about these funds is an apron with different pockets, and you can only buy things that will fit in certain pockets. And so these funds are for things that are over and beyond what we would normally do. So any other questions or comments?
I don't believe we have any comments, Board.
All right, thank you very much.
Next, we're going to move on to the public hearing for the budget adoption. Janet?
Good evening, President Ortiz, Dr. Garcia, and trustees. Tonight, we present to the board for review and adoption the proposed budget for general operating, which is our main operating budget, child nutrition budget, and debt service budget, which is the budget that we use to pay our debt. As responsible stewards of public funds, we have built this budget to address not only the current needs of our student, staff, and district, but also tomorrow's opportunities. The budget reflects a commitment to student academic successes, maintaining safe and secure learning environments, preserving our facilities, and ensuring all students receive a high-quality education. As part of Priority 2, tonight we are presenting two compensation options for consideration. Option 1, at a cost of $2.5 million, includes a 1% increase for eligible employees in the administrative, professional, and teacher pay structures. Also an increase of $1 per hour for our clerical and paraprofessional pay structures, and $1.50 for eligible employees on the auxiliary pay structure. Option 2, at a cost of $2.7 million, is a 2% increase for eligible employees on the teacher and administrative professional pay structure, as well as $1 for eligible employees for clerical and paraprofessional, and the $1.50 for auxiliary. Both option 1 and 2 are part of they will be based on midpoint for teachers and administrative professionals, and they both have a second incentive, an additional demonstration of the district's commitment to our staff that are here in recognition of the remarkable work that they continue to do to support our students. Administration is recommending a one-time impact incentive for $2,500 for eligible full-time employees and $1,250 for part-time employees. And finally, a retention incentive in the amount of $500 for full-time employees and $250 for part-time employees. Both would need to be qualifying who are employed by the district on or before January 11th. This brings the total of incentives to $3,000 for returning full-time employees who complete their 26-27 contract. Returning part-time employees would be eligible to receive $1,500 for completing their 26-27 assignments. All right, just a quick overview of school district funding and how our local and state values compare. Our local appraised values is what we base our local tax collections on. So this, we receive certified estimates in April, which is what we start building our budget off of. Then we use the estimated local tax collections, and we will receive in July, no later than the 25th, but from Williamson County, the actual certified value for the local appraised tax value, tax rates. The state tax value, that is something that the state calculates in late fall, early spring. So the comptroller will take those values, put their formulas to the work, and we will be able to base our state funding off those calculations. We reviewed the property taxes, or the property value, in April. Since then, we've had a couple of updates. The last valuation that we received for Williamson County, based on before frozen rates, was $3.2 billion for Williamson County Taylor. It is up to $3.4 billion. Again, in July, we will receive those updates, certified values from Williamson County, and we hope to have those hopefully sooner than later, but they do have until July the 25th. This is an overview of what our tax rates have done over the past 10 years. You will notice it has declined substantially. This year, the 26-27 tax rate is not yet known. TEA will compress our tax rate after we learn what our values are in July. We will find out by August 5th what our tax rate will be compressed to. So at that time, we'll be able to update the community on what our tax rate will be for this coming year. Looking at revenue, this is the breakdown of our local, state, and federal revenue that we estimate at this point. Again, we are estimating without knowing what our certified values are and without knowing yet what our tax rate exactly will be. So that totals $55.6 million. Looking at our general fund, what the expected expenditures are for this year, we are looking at 4.9. And if you'll notice, everything is lined up in function. We are required to base our budget on these functions. Each function, starting with 11, is designated for the classroom, for the teachers. These are expenses that are solely related to educating our students. The next one that you might notice is fairly high is the maintenance and operations. So this is something, of course, that we have to help our facilities. It does cover the maintenance crew, custodians, and all anything related to the grounds work. You will notice there's a $1.9 million difference in last year's budget versus this year's. If you'll remember, last year we entered the budget season, we had to prepare for the what if the bond did not pass. So that's where you'll see that significant decline, because ultimately our community did come and voted for the bond. We applaud them every day. So that's why we were able to edge back on our proposed budget for the maintenance and operations. So this is the breakdown, still looking at general operating expenses. This is the breakdown by object. So this groups the items into payroll costs, professional contracted services, supplies, and other operating expenses. All right, the next budget that we're reviewing is child nutrition. This is, of course, what runs this is the fund that we use for running our state-funded and the child nutrition portion. So this is where we have any of the external costs related to running that facility. The next slide is our debt service. This is where we pay our debt. So any bonds that we have currently, this is where the funding that we use to pay those debts down. All right, so next, as part of our budget development, so this is it. This is the adoption night. This is what we look forward to since November, when we start talking about the next year's budget. Looking forward again in July through October, we're going to get those certified values. We're going to have an audit, as we do every year, which is required by law. It's an outside audit. It's nothing we've done wrong. It's just to make sure our practices are best practices. And then by September 30th, that's the last day that we have to adopt our tax rate. Any questions?
Trustees, any questions? And again, this is a public hearing, so if there's any comments or questions from the public, if you'd address the board, recognize yourself, and then ask your question, we'd take that.
I have a comment. I'd just like to thank Jenna for her tireless work on this. You looked at that timeline, that's the number of nights that she gets no sleep until this comes to fruition. I've said it before and I'll say it again, we are the luckiest community for so many reasons, but mainly because of our position. If you pay attention to the news around us, it's not so pleasant in other school districts. We are fortunate that we are talking about a balanced budget. Not only that, but that we are going to do what we can to increase for our employees. So we thank our lucky stars and our employees.
And I have to add that the decisions that this board have made and Dr. Garcia are what supports our good standing as far as what we're looking at with the future of our students.
Are there any questions or any more comments? At this time, I will close the public hearing portion of the meeting at 7:04 p.m. At this time, I'd like to call to order the regular board meeting of the Taylor Independent School District's Board of Trustees for Monday, June 22nd, 2026. 7:04 p.m. All right, if everybody join us in the pledge of the American and Texas flags. Flags are located at the east side of the building. Yeah, northeast. Here we go. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you. At this time, the Board of Trustees will recite the mission, vision, and core belief statements. We'll start with Trustee Balley.
In Taylor ISD, we believe our accessible campus leaders foster community relationships and demonstrate effective communication, servant leadership, and instructional leadership to guide faculty and staff toward our vision.
In Taylor ISD, we believe the Board of Trustees is a collaborative team, anchored in tradition with a vision towards a future and a connection to the community, inspiring exceptional workplace and excellence in student outcomes.
Taylor ISD, we believe the superintendent and district leaders are forward-thinking, strategic, and accessible partners to our community and empower staff to help students achieve their unique potential.
In Taylor ISD, we believe families are partners who will be informed and supported in the educational process to help students discover their unique potential.
In Taylor ISD, we believe every student has unique potential and shall engage in opportunities to grow in a safe environment through multiple approaches to learning.
In Taylor ISD, we believe our empowered faculty and staff utilize their respective skills to serve as student advocates for the whole child.
Our mission is to inspire, equip, and empower every student to achieve their unique potential with a vision of intentionally empowering the whole child. Thank you, trustees. Next on the agenda are recognitions. Dr. Garcia, Superintendent Equipment. You want to have trustees?
As they're making their way to the front, we're going to start with our coin of excellence for our staff and our students.
Get on with it.
I'm sorry. So sorry.
Summertime has arrived, and it is time to celebrate our June Queen of Excellence. This month we are celebrating Ashley Doss. She is a duck through and through. She's our communication specialist, and she's done an amazing job telling the story of Taylor ISD and what it means to truly be a duck. Ashley, you are a 1+ because of your care, your dedication, your leadership, and your overall love for Taylor ISD. Thank you, Ashley. Okay, Ashley, you are June Superintendent Queen of Excellence. Yes, thank you for the day that I came in and so forth. Ashley was in that front office, and I come in and I'm like, hey, I got an idea. And then she said, I have an idea. And then I would just be in the front office for like 30 minutes. It was very dangerous. She has done so much. She has helped me personally in my role, but also the magnitude of the production of campus. And then the peers here too, versus here. Ashley, on behalf of campuses and campus schools, you guys really should love this. Team to be recognized, thank you for always making us look good, showing up for us, and supporting us, and we love everything that we do. Thank you for all that you do. Congratulations.
Next up, we are going to recognize some Lady Ducks softball. First, we'd like to first team all district, Anaí Arobo. This is a little different than the way we normally do it, but you're just gonna follow her and stop, and then we're gonna take a picture of all together. Next up, second team all district, Kate Burrow. Then we have honorable mention, Elena Ortiz. Honorable mention, Chandler Woodruff. Honorable mention, Kennedy Pleasance. And honorable mention, Mia Vendor. So congratulations to our Lady Ducks softball team.
Okay, everyone look over here. 1, 2, 3. Got it.
All right, congratulations. All right, next up we have our Taylor Duck baseball team. First up, we have Mason Sunfisman, who is 4A District 2A, first team all district. Congratulations to Mason. Next up, we have Taylor High School baseball second team all district, Angel Rodriguez. Hayden Talley, second team all district. Brody Wygant, second team all district. Kingston Barron for honorable mention, all district. Mario Newman, honorable mention, all district. And Braden Ochoa, honorable mention, all district. All right, let's give Taylor Baseball a big round of applause. Well, y'all may want to get, like, let them put swinging all over.
Everyone see the camera? All right, 1, 2, 3.
Hold on. Okay. All right, congratulations, baseball. Next up, we want to recognize our Texas UIL State Choir Solo and Ensemble Awards. We have a Division II state rating to Ethan Green, Matthew Hernandez, and Zevin Torres.
Good job. Way to go. Great job. Hey, congrats. Good job. Now you get what you have.
Behind you, so these are. There we go. All right, everyone look here. 1, 2, 3.
Good. All right. Next up, we have our Texas UIL State Band Solo and Ensemble Awards. We have a gold medal for Edward Robles, a silver medal for Isaac Martinez. We have a bronze medal for Caleb Alderetti, Natalia Cruz, Marissa Edelman, Jackson Hayden, Colton Johnson, Isaac Martinez, Haley McClendon, John Miller, Oriana Ramirez, Kiara Rodriguez, and Colton Ramos. All right, now while you guys are staying here, we also have several students that, some of you may be the same ones, but Division II state ratings for Aubriella Gonzalez, Ethan Green, Tristan Kelly, Logan Morris, Morgan Patchke, and Edward Rowland for a Division II state rating. All right, now everybody go back and let's take your picture.
Might get to be by this one.
And everyone see the camera. All right, 1, 2, 3.
All right, congratulations. Next up, we have Ms. Volek, who is going to present a T Foundation check.
Good evening. We have one check to present tonight. It was a grant that was written by 3 teachers. So if any of these ladies are here, Clara Lopez, Lucia Arellano, and Carla Capilla. If y'all are here. Here they come. And I think they brought a student or two with them who got to benefit from this grant. Oh, that is so sweet, so sweet. While they're coming up, this grant is for summer school field trips at T.H. Johnson. Come on up. The grant was for $2,265, and the grant will fund 3 summer school field trips for pre-K and kindergarten students. They have already been to the Texas Science and Natural History Museum, the Cameron Park Zoo, one of my favorite places to go, and they will be going to the Austin Aquarium this week, I believe. It will also fund, I don't know whether this is a surprise or not, but it will also fund a water slide as well as a visit from Kona Ice during their summer school session. In previous years, the ISD summer school staff has relied on the Taylor Public Library programming. But that program has changed a little bit and now has over 200 students and isn't ideal for our young learners. This grant will help meet their goal of moving from passive observation to active discovery. And we received some pictures today and looks like you guys had a fun time. They hope to maintain a 95% attendance rate for summer school using these high-interest experiences that will foster a lifelong excitement for school and discovery. So it's our pleasure to beef up the summer school program for our youngest ducks, and we applaud the teachers for applying for a grant. Thank y'all so much.
Okay, yes.
Everybody ready? Over here. Okay. 1, 2, 3, cheese.
child helpers.
Lightning McQueen.
There you go, they're not mine.
We don't have.
I have some in my car and I didn't. I was like, I always have some. I have some.
Oh, the
Yes, I do. Oh, I have some.
Carol coming in clutch.
Oh, Joe's more about than I am. Kids don't have cooties, I'm fine. Uh-oh, I lost internet. Oh, there you go.
Oh,
Oh, okay. Need any? No, but why not? Because it smells pretty. I definitely do. That's the flavor it is. Joy Beach or something? Snowy peach berries.
Keep my family out of here. Good. Carol came in clutch down here. Yeah, she got this in technical. Yeah.
Oh, no.
Fun fact.
Fun fact.
Fun fact Monday.
Vicky, do we have any public comments today?
Yeah.
All right, next on the agenda, reports to the Board of Trustees. Item A, bond update, project controls.
Keeping America free.
Good evening. Tonight will be a pretty quick update. So, over the next couple of months, as we talked about in the last meeting, we're just kind of getting design kicked off. Is this working? You're good. All right, so we've completed the VLK curation, where this is where the architect brings in some key staff members and just starts talking about values and look and feel and those sorts of items. And we've received the curation report, and here's some of the key outcomes that came out of that report. So you'll see that the architect wants to align instructional vision around the Taylor Way. So part of what they're doing is making sure they understand what Taylor ISD values, and that's been communicated to them. It's been communicated that programs have outgrown facilities across key areas, so we've kind of denoted what those key areas are, where the program has outgrown the facilities. Talked about safety and circulation challenges district-wide. We talked about specific ones. They've denoted those in the curation report. Equity of facilities is a major priority. So as we've continued to talk about even in the last bond, as the district grows, we want to make sure that we're bringing all of our existing facilities up and making them equitable to any future buildings that we might build. Community identity drives design decisions. I think that's always been something that we know is key, is that community is very strong in Taylor, and that should drive some design. CTE and STEM expansions drive space needs. Facilities show consistent gaps in functionality. And then stakeholder engagement is strong and ongoing. What we're moving into next is called the launch. So we've started programming, which is where we start bringing in staff, and then we start talking about, okay, what are the programs that need to fit in the spaces? So a multi-purpose facility at the high school, what are the programs that need to fit in that new space? What are the projected sizes that those programs need to be? And then, so right now what we see are like these big blocks on a presentation. So you've got a square that's this big for this type of space, maybe a black box theater, and then you have a square that's this big for an auditorium space. And they're just trying to kind of gauge from a programming perspective, how much space do we need for each of those programs? And that has staff involvement in that. VLK launch is where we start bringing in community members and start getting community input. So we actually have our first launch meeting this Thursday evening for Taylor Middle School. There's been select community members that have been engaged and asked to attend those meetings. And so we will have a total of 2 launch meetings for the middle school and 3 for the high school. Just because the high school is a little bit of a larger project. And that one, if you'll remember, we're actually doing long-range planning for the building. So not just this current bond, we're not talking just about that space. We're actually talking about where that space fits in relation to an overall future build out of that campus to accommodate for growth. So the launch meeting for the high school will be on the 14th of July. That will be our first launch meeting for the high school, and we'll have community members involved in that as well. Our preliminary schedule really hasn't changed much from last month, but you'll see up here, our schedule right now, we're still talking broad range dates. We're not putting exact dates on those yet until we kind of progress in our planning and can start to tighten those dates up. But as you see, we're really looking at summer to fall of 28 is where you're going to start seeing a lot of these projects wrapping up. So, any questions?
Any questions? I think we're good.
All right. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I could get it to work. No worries. Good evening. So I'm going to go over briefly. We have our preliminary results from our 2026 accountability. So this is going to kind of be a 2-part series because right now we just have preliminary. So we're going to update you on where we're at so far. But then we'll be coming back to you after accountability is finalized and let you know final outcome and then next steps from there. So this supports our goal 1.1, which is to increase academic achievement. So we will start off with high school accountability. All right, so these 2 graphs shows you a comparison of just raw achievement from last year's STAR scores to this year's STAR scores. So if you just look on a color code, from last year to this year, we see a lot of green, which is what we want to see. We saw very notable statistical gains in high school, and where we go from here is on the right, we start to look at nuanced of, okay, so once we get greens in all areas, we really want to start to look at that meets growth area in the middle, because what we want is for that number to continue to increase. And so once we get the students on the board, we really want to be moving them to the right hand side up to that meets and then master's level. You'll see that the only areas that did not show notable gains were legacy and English 2, but we also have to keep in mind there's always context around data, and that's what makes it meaningful, is those cohorts are so small, 1 or 2 students can have a large impact on the overall. So although sometimes we do see some large jumps or some backslides, that usually is an indication of 1 or 2 students rather than what we would think of at a comprehensive high school level. And then if you look at the high school, again, algebra, so that second to bottom line, we saw notable gains across with double-digit gains in both approaches and meets. So all of this speaks to the work that we've done around PLCs, the Taylor Way, observation and feedback, coaching teachers. And so we're just going to continue to build on what's working. We've already talked to the staff to figure out, okay, what can we attribute this to, what can we replicate, and what can we continue growing. So our college career and military readiness, my favorite thing is to have districts call us and say, hey, we've seen these massive improvements, what are you doing? And we are always happy to help share. So this chart shows us the movement that we've been able to make at the district level all the way back from 2021. And as we've moved along, we have had monumental gains every year, even after the 2023 shift. that moved that marker of proficient up. We were still able to meet that, and we are projecting somewhere in the range of 93 to 94% for the district level for this year. And the reason why it is projection is because we still have a larger window. CCMR lags a year, and so we do have a little extra time to find those individual students and try to get them college, career, and military readiness compliant by the deadline. So then we have middle school accountability. All right, so if nothing else, if you just focus in on colors, we have lots of green in that right-hand area. The middle school is something that I have continued to report on throughout the year. It has been a focus area for us this year to make sure that we get the gains we need to exit school improvement. We are thrilled by what we see so far. All greens. That 7th grade math, I will say from an academic standpoint, that 7th grade math test, although you don't think so, is probably one of the most difficult tests because it has a high cognitive testing ability without the use of a calculator. So that 7th grade test usually is the hardest academic achievement to push up, but we still saw some gains in that approaches area. If you notice, our largest jump is Algebra 1 from last year to this year. Last year we did struggle with that backslide of double digit, and this year we were able to make up ground, and we will continue to build on that moving forward to make sure that we get our algebra kids where we need to be. Both the high school, all of secondary matches what we already know, which is we've spent a lot of time focusing on RLA and writing, and the data has responded. And now we have shifted into laying that groundwork for math all the way through the organization because we still see that gap, and we're going to continue to push to try and minimize that space. All right, so now we're going to go down to elementary. So pre-K and kindergarten, we kind of use two different assessments because they're not tested on STAR. For pre-K, we use what we call a circle assessment, and it is a state-approved assessment that we are required to give. And it tracks where students enter in preschool, and with the assumption that preschool is early intervention, and so we get a baseline, never quite knowing where that's at, and then we're always looking for that growth. So if you look at the blue line, students came in on reading at 41%, and then they were able to exit us at 64%. And then mathematics, they did come in higher at 81% and exited at 87%. So although math, they came in higher and we did show gains, we still want the growth percentage to match what we're able to grow in reading. So it's continuing to be an area of growth and focus for us is, okay, if we can make this much growth in reading, how can we replicate that for math? And that's just an ongoing conversation, and that's not unique to Taylor. That is also the state of Texas, and the state of Texas is also working on providing districts with extra support. On the right-hand side, this was our first year using iReady, so we are still learning what that full cycle looks like and what the data translates to. So we are excited to get those beginning numbers in and then overlay them with what we see in the STAR tested areas. So on top for kindergarten, we do have mathematics for THJ, and the bottom is reading for THJ. If these were STAR labels or categories, we have approaches, meets, and masters. The first bar is the beginning of the year, the second bar is the end. You can see that, again, we do make gains across the board in reading and mathematics. We just want to continue to see the jump for reading match the same as mathematics because ultimately we want that gap to, one, not exist, but two, we have to maintain the same level of growth in order to make it. So first and second grade. First and second grade is in that middle. They're not STAR tested, but we're still looking at data to figure out what exactly it means. We were able to take a snapshot of end of the year levels for first and second grade for math and RLA. You see these first two are first grade MSE, first grade MPE, second grade MSE, second grade NPE, and we see that approaches, meets, and masters level by the end of the year. The data trend and range here does match what we start to see lay out in the STAR grades. What we're hoping is that this year was baseline for iReady, and we're going to start comparing what are the trends we're seeing leading up to 3rd grade, and then what continues on. Last year we did have Renaissance, and what we noticed is that we were showing these high levels of achievement up until they hit STAR tested areas, and then the achievement appeared to drop off. And so we're really looking for that universal screener to not have rose-colored glasses, because we really need to know where our students are so that we can intervene. So understanding, okay, does this trend somewhat accurately predict how they're going to be on STAR? And time will tell with that. We are working on getting STAR growth and growth statistics from iReady, and we will report back to you on that in July when we have the final outcomes to see, is it correlated, what are we seeing, because we really do want this to be a usable measure. All right, so now we get to move to our STAR performance levels for elementary. Again, on the left-hand side was last year, on the right-hand side is for this year. First thing, a few things to point out. The science scores, the 5th grade science, those were new TEKS and tested, and they have not told us what the cut scores of those are, which is the reason why those bars are grayed out, because we don't have that data yet. We do anticipate it in July, and that might adjust and shift some overall accountability ratings, which we'll report then. Overall, our elementaries grew a ton last year, which is wonderful. The hard part with growth is to do that year after year is also hard. So we do anticipate a backslide in some of our elementaries, but even a backslide, we are still ahead of where we were. It's just our systems are still so fresh and new, so we're trying to figure out what is that thing that we hold on to and we replicate, and what is that thing that might have been useful, but did it really is an accurate measure, or did it just so happen in the area of what am I doing? Yes, like was it designed and not by chance? So did it just happen in the time that we had these wonderful gains, or was that the actual reason? So we continue to tease that out. Something else, and this is the reason why raw numbers don't always tell you the whole story, because I do want to point out something, and I'm not going to go too far because I know we need audio. But if you look at NPE, that 3rd grade cohort last year, so if you don't look at last year and you just look at this year, you look at NPE, that 4th grade math and reading, and you're like, oh man, that whole grade level dropped. But, as for context matters, if you look at last year, where those kids were last year in 3rd grade, math and reading, if you look at their overall approaches for math and reading, 46 and 72, and then you follow them up, 46 to 57. So this just so happens to be a group that struggles, but that's where you have to look at where did they come and where did they land, because although you see red, because this is comparative of last year's 4th graders to this year's 4th graders, but if you look at that group from where they were last year to where they were this year, there is a lot to celebrate there. So I always caution everyone, numbers are great, but without context, it only tells part of the story. We still see some great gains across elementary. One thing that I'm going to highlight on next is our writing scores. So we continue to see what we focus on and what we make a priority, the data response. And I'm hoping that I'm going to be able to come back to you in another year, because now we've laid the groundwork for math, and we're going to start to see those respond. Okay, so these are our ECRs, so our writing. Our writing. This is something that we've been focusing on since I was here 2 years ago, and making sure that we are constantly embedding and supporting and refining our ability for our students to write. So in all of these graphs, you see the left-hand side, which is last year, and the right-hand side this year. If you don't want to take it all in, just look for the stars. The red stars show growth from last year to this year. So you can see, especially in elementary, we were able to show growth in almost every single grade level. And again, like I said earlier, that context matters piece. Even the only place we didn't show notable growth was NPE 4th grade. But that same group who scored a 3.1 this year on average, last year in 3rd grade scored a 1. So huge growth still. Not growth from last year's 4th grade to this year's 4th grade, but as a group of kids, my son being one of them, how did each of those students go? They still showed notable growth. So you can tell everything usually starts at elementary. Any new initiative, we front loaded in elementary, and then you start to see this wave that goes across the district. And that's what we're starting to see. So we're going to continue to grow. So overall, strengths, our CCMR is one of the highest in the state. Now, I will say the state is adjusting CCMR, and we do anticipate everyone in the state taking a drop down, because when everyone's doing really great, then it's time to raise the bar. It is what it is, but it's a wonderful challenge of, okay, what's the next thing that we can offer students? So we will gladly accept it. But right now, we are doing wonderful in CCMR. Our writing continues to show improvements and respond. That continues to be a highlight in growth. And then our area of improvement and what we are continuing to focus on in this coming year is mathematics. Any questions for accountability? Now remember, this is a two-part series. I'm going to come back in July, and we're going to talk about how everything actually ended.
Any questions or comments?
Yeah, one more.
Yes.
I appreciate all the hard work you and the staff throughout the district are doing, because there was a lot of stars up there. And that's what I was doing. I was trying to count the stars from here. There's a lot of stars. So that's showing a lot of growth and improvement throughout the district. And I like what you brought up about the fourth graders. Don't look at the score now, look at what it came from when they was third graders for the overall group, and that's progress. A lot of progress. I think that's a good point. I'm glad you pointed that out to everybody too.
Any other comments? Questions?
I think we're good to go.
Did you say for me to keep going?
No, I said we're, yeah, good to go.
Okay.
Good to go.
Keep going.
Y'all are with me for a little while. Okay, so it lends itself beautifully to what I just reported on. It's talking about Curriculum Week. It has been a focus of the teaching and learning team and the district to build robust supports from the district level as far as curriculum and instruction. I have stood up before you and said, we need teachers to not worry about the what. It's our responsibility to give them the what. They need to use their time and energy on focusing on the how. How are they going to deliver this instruction? How are they going to assess their students and understand where they need to intervene, push, enrich? So this is our attempt to do that. Again, supporting 1.1, increase academic achievement. So the purpose of curriculum writing, you have to have that strong foundation. This is how we make sure that none of our students have the educational lottery. Any classroom that they go into at Taylor ISD, they are going to receive the same world-renowned education with rigorous instruction, high-quality materials, and it's going to be assessed at a level that gives us the information we need to use our expertise and intervene appropriately. So the 4 focus questions is, what do we want all students to know? How do we know if they learned it? If they don't understand it, how are we going to intervene? And what happens when students already know the materials? How are we going to push them to the next level? The idea is to work smarter, not harder. I just talked about the what versus the why. We need our focus and energy for teachers to be able to just internalize the material and worry about the delivery and focus rather than what am I teaching. That is where me and my team can help make sure that they have those materials and support ready to go. So the curriculum writing timeline on all of our district documents that we currently have, we have a feedback button that as teachers are going throughout the year, if they come across something that doesn't make sense, something that seems misaligned, they can go ahead and give that feedback in real time, and we capture all of that and come back to it during the summer. We do have a curriculum writing week. This past year it was May 27th and 28th. We invite teachers to be a part of that process because the best people to work on practitioner documents are the practitioners. So we bring in those teachers, we pull out all the feedback, we have large discussions about, okay, what do we need to adjust? How can we make this better? And how can we make sure that everything is ready to go by the first day of school? So the key components. At a large level, we have what is the philosophy of teaching and what do we believe? What is that year at a glance? All the way down to, okay, this is your unit and then this is your daily lesson. And the pieces that we try to provide for teachers to help them with this process our big ideas, essential questions, TEAG breakdown, how was it taught last year, what is being built upon, and they will be expected to learn it this year. This is all of that periphery information that teachers need, because it never happens the way you expect whenever you go and walk into a lesson. You don't just teach from A, B, C, D. Inevitably, something's going to go sideways. A misconception is going to pop up that you didn't quite realize. And if you don't have that depth of knowledge of your content, you won't know how to pivot so quickly. So this is our attempt to really download all of that information that teachers need to be successful. So we were able to add in some content areas, and every year we will continue to build and expand. At the end of this year's curriculum writing, we were able to have full curriculum documents for reading language arts from kindergarten through English 4, mathematics, kindergarten through statistics, social studies, 8th grade in U.S. history, science, 3rd grade in biology, and we continue to add new areas every year. We always have this graphic, we bring it up all the time. All of these, in that first little arrow section, all those arrows are working really hard. There's not one arrow not working hard. They're all going in different directions. So our attempt to systemize what we can without taking away teacher autonomy that we can is to make sure that we're at least all going in the same direction. Because again, we want to minimize that educational lottery. We want to guarantee the experience of our students. So in summary, teacher voice matters. Teacher voice matters in curriculum writing. State content and standards also matter because they let us know where we need to set the bar. So if we know where the bar is and we keep it there, we get feedback from our teachers of how it's going. Between all of us, we can try and marry those two to make sure that one, we don't lower expectations so that we feel good because we need our students to be successful. No, how do we empower our staff to be able to give students anything that they need to be able to stay at that high level of rigor? Because we have some ground to make up and we're doing it, but we need to continue to do it year after year. Any questions for curriculum writing?
Good to go.
All right, one more. All right, instructional walkthrough update. All right, so again, we're gonna live in 1.1. We're hitting them all because this is, wrapping up the year, and we're gonna report on how we've done. So when we first began this work in 2023, 2024, the walkthrough development began. It was, okay, do we see the benefit of common walkthroughs? What does that look like? What do we think we need to assess? And what are we seeing once we get inside the classrooms? And this is where the Taylor Way started to become born. And so the 4 areas that we focus on are learning objective, rigor, critically writing, and student engagement. So once we laid the groundwork and said, okay, let's just get this off the ground. The next year, 24-25, full academic year implementation. So walks were happening in 2023 and 24, halfway through the year, and then 24-25, the entire year. So principals and APs were able to complete 1980 walks, so just shy of 2,000 walks. That is up 1,300 from the previous year, and teachers started receiving an email with immediate feedback after walks were complete. So we started walks, we added feedback, and we added volume because we know that we cannot intervene with supporting teachers and making sure that they get the support that they deserve if we don't know what's going on. So then we shifted from 24-25 to this past year. We continued that momentum, and as a campus leadership team, they were able to complete 2,929 walks, so just shy of 3,000 walks, and this is an increase of almost 950 walks from the previous year. So if you look at this graph on the right, projected growth, walks per year, you see the jump in volume of walks from year to year. So the first was just figuring out what we thought was important to see in that calibration. Then it was implementation and adjustment, feedback, and then it landed at this past year, and we're not done yet. We've just gotten started. So we did have a weekly commitment walk of 5 walks a week, and then we had a 1+ goal of 10 walks a week. By the end of the year, each administrator will have completed a minimum of 155 walks. And We have exceeded that as an overall district, and now we have to move. So we have the time in the classrooms. Now we have to connect that time within the moment adjustments to PD, and that's the next step. That's what we're moving into for this next year. So on the right is progress towards that 1+ goal. So that red line was the minimum of the 5 walks per administrator for the campus, and then we do have our 1+ goal of those 10 walks per week, and we are proud to highlight THJ and NPE for being able to hit that 1+ goal, and we're going to continue to try and move all campuses towards that this coming year. So we do have celebrations. TMS met the campus and walkthrough goal and made meaningful, they were like right in the middle. They didn't quite hit that 1+, but they made a good faith effort to get there, and we also want to recognize their effort and support. So growth opportunities, you know, it's the plight of all leaders. We have our calendars, and sometimes time just gets taken away so quickly. So we're really working this year about what is the most important work. How do you work as a team to protect that time, to make sure that we are always getting into classrooms, and that's something that we're going to continue to focus on throughout the year. And then the other growth area that I've already mentioned is, okay, we have this data, what information are we getting from it, and how can we adjust quickly rather than waiting to like these big checkpoints to take a look at it and adjust at a district level. Although that is great, but the faster that we can adjust and close gaps, the faster we can provide that for our students. All right, so the Taylor Way implementation snapshot. This is the Taylor Way in narrative form, so this is what we give to all of our students that explain those 4 areas of walkthroughs and what we're looking for. The bottom line is that the Taylor Way is visible. This is not theoretical. This is not what we learned at Region 13. This is really what we've embodied and brought to Taylor. And we're going to continue to focus on it. Everyone knows this is not set in stone. This is what we continuously say as a teaching team and a leadership team. What is the most important thing to look at every year? And if that changes, we will gladly change. Because the point is not to check a box. The point is to get our leaders and instructional support staff the information they need to support teachers so that they can turn around and support students. So leverage leadership is about seeing a teacher in action and giving feedback that causes change. So this particular quote is by Paul Bambrick Santoyo. This is one of the authors of Get Better Faster, which I've spoken to before. This is our teacher coaching model that we use, and it really does frame up the mission and vision of why we support teachers and get inside their classrooms, because at the end of the day, we want them to feel empowered and supported so that they can best teach and respond and adjust to the needs of our students. So this is just an overview of all the things I talked about, but what questions does anyone have or comments?
Yes, Trustee Miller. Quick question, like, do y'all have a way that you're measuring the quality of your walks? I see the quantity, but is it, and is that kind of the 2-part question, right? So I understand, like, y'all are getting the feedback that you need for that week or that month or that 2-week period, right? And that's what you're targeting for the walks. How do you measure the quality of it?
Yeah, great question. So within each of those areas, there's a rating scale within the walkthrough. Was it observed, not observed? And so there's a scale for each of them, like a little mini rubric of how we think that teacher was doing within each of those indicators. And that is the information that we would ideally use to then implement into campus-based PD quickly. So for like, oh, we're noticing learning objective is not, is only being implemented, I'm making this up, 40% of the classrooms. Okay, our walkthrough data is showing us this. Okay, we need to go and do a mini PD on what the learning objective is and how to use it, and then take a new set of data and see, did we quickly move that measuring point rather than waiting to like these big chunks of data consolidation. So some campuses do that better than others, and we're really looking at just systematically building that so it's more seamless rather than something to be mindful of and talked.
Okay.
But yes, each of those has its own rating scale.
Yeah, Thanks.
Go ahead, Dr. Dixon.
Would you also touch with Mr. Miller, the calibration system that we do monthly and then that we did at the beginning?
Yeah, great question. So what we do so monthly we have what we call huddles. So these are instructional huddles. We bring all the principals together and we have an instructional focus, but then we also walk classes as a group. And that's sometimes outside of, we've taken Mr. Womble, we've taken him to NPE to walk classrooms, and we're really looking at those thematic pieces that we're looking for, and we're having those conversations of, okay, does the high school principal see the same thing as the elementary school principal, see the same thing as a middle school principal? And so we have those calibration talks to make sure that we're all understanding the rubric and seeing the same thing when we walk.
Okay. Oh, good. Hey, can I ask another one?
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, no.
No,
Yeah.
no problem, because I kind of have a two thing also. First, kudos to all your campus administrators. I mean, that number jump, that's just great. Not to flip it to ask a negative question, but if we're not meeting even just the minimum walkthroughs, not the 1+, I guess I'll just ask it. Are there any consequences, if you will, for like multiple non-meeting? Because it's really just a disservice to them of not being able to gain all the information to give back. So I don't know that that's even a thought, but where do we go from there if we have an administrator not?
No, great question.
Yeah.
I look at that as a teacher who is struggling in the classroom. The first thing I'm going to ask is, hey, what's going on? What barriers are there that are preventing you or the team from getting inside classrooms? And the answer to correcting that is really nuanced because it's going to be specific by campus. And just like with any teacher, we say, okay, what are the barriers? Because at the end of the day, we want you to be successful. And so how can we work through that and create a plan to make sure, for example, I mentioned earlier, the calendaring, the working as a team to making sure that time is protected. Sometimes it's having that philosophical conversation of why do we do this and what is it of value to you? And what, if for some reason it's not a value, what do you need for it to be a value? And it's never one answer, it's always specific, but we would treat it just like anything else because we know we all wake up, we all want to be great for kids, and so we're going to, one, make sure we understand, two, identify the barriers and remove them, and then work the plan and make sure that we all get to where we need to be.
And I totally get that. I mean, every day is different, so it's never the same. My second part that I just wanted to ask was, and you may have touched on it, feedback from the actual teachers on how they like this. That they're getting feedback from what are you getting from the teachers?
So part of the feedback that we received from teachers was, so we had this walkthrough data, and then it was, okay, people are coming in and going, and sometimes we get information and feedback from it, and sometimes we don't. And so that's where we were able to implement the automatic email whenever it was completed, so the information could be sent back. I will say what we've heard currently is it starts to become more administrator specific on the quality of the feedback and how they perceive that to be influential to their teaching practice. So that is something that we are continuing to work on, is how to give feedback. This is what you saw. We do a lot of training on what we call low inference data. So it's not a walk in, oh, I loved your lesson today. Or, hey, your lesson needs to be improved. That is not helpful to a teacher. But if you walk in and say, 18 out of 23 students were actively engaged in the writing prompt. 4 out of 8 students were able to tell me the learning objective of the day. That gives us meat that we can then create a goal for teachers, and that's something that they can grasp onto. And that's continuous training that we're doing with administrators, because really where it becomes impactful for teachers is when we're giving the right information and feedback. And that is somewhat of a new skill for administrators, and it's something that we're continuing to work on.
But the teachers are liking it.
When they receive the feedback that they feel like they can do something with, they do like it. When it feels ambiguous or they're not sure what to do with it, that's when it's less about the tool and more about the feedback.
That was your question.
That was my question. So, yeah, thanks for asking that. But now I do have a comment. so for a couple of years, I know we've kind of heard about these walkthroughs, and it's really good to understand it, the ends, ways, and means of the implementation of it now. And again, as a professional organization, a learning organization, continuing to implement what we're improving on, seeing some of the fruits of y'all's labor. So appreciate it. Again, heard about the walkthroughs, right? But and known that y'all are out there, you're engaging and you're present, but didn't understand. So thanks for elaborating on it. Wasn't trying to put you on the spot or anything, but I did want to understand the actions on the objectives. So
Yes.
Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
If I could, I'd just like to add something to speak to the validity of the walkthroughs. One of the things that, and this is not the walkthrough piece itself, but with our teacher incentive allotment, a teacher's observation, basically their big walkthrough and their scores have to have a correlation. That meaning a statistical correlation, that meaning that if I score way up here and my scores are down here, there's no statistical correlation. So when we submit all of that data, Texas Tech runs this whole thing, and I will just say that, yeah, whatever. I'm very proud of the fact that our principals, like, and we can tell what the number is because we paid somebody to help us because it's smarter than me. But our correlation number between what our principals are calibrating and scoring our teachers is very highly correlated to what their student scores are. We've had to do some little adjustments, but I just think that's kind of what you were asking, like, how do you know if it's any good? That's kind of like our STAR test for the principals. Like, if we can correlate to those data pieces, to the STAR or to the iReady or whatever, then we've hit the mark.
Yeah.
And so the walkthroughs are the practice points to that point.
And that's what like, you could do 10,000 walkthroughs, but if they're not quality,
Yes.
right? Like,
Right.
But
so-
we're getting good at that.
Yeah.
Trustee Taylor, oh, sorry.
No, I say good. Thanks.
Trustee
Yeah.
Taylor, any questions?
I'd like to take a different perspective. I'm not taking anything away from the feedback for teachers, but to me also, because relationships are so important, I feel that this is wonderful for our kids to get to know these principals and vice principals in a situation other than you're in trouble, get to the office, that sort of thing. You know, they're humans. And I'm excited that Mr. Womble is going to the elementary so that, you know, that relationship, because we come so far, and I know you get tired of war stories, but I actually had a principal walk through my classroom. Of course, now these were freshmen, so take it for what it's worth. When the man left, they said, "Was that your husband?" I mean, he was the principal of the school, you know, and the kids had no idea who he was. So for that piece, I love it that kids are getting used to people coming in and out and having a relationship with those principals and assistants.
I love that you highlighted that because that is a wonderful benefit of just being visible. And I will say, you know, when we saw that trend before we did not have, 3 years ago, we did not have data that showed to the depth that we were actually in classrooms and seeing. And now we're starting to increase that volume. And so what happens, even if we're still developing leader ability to read and respond quickly to feedback within the classroom, what they start to develop is intuition. Because they start to see these patterns, even if they're not quite sure what these patterns are specific to that, you know, specific content, but they start to see this, okay, I'm starting to notice, and so you start to have intuition. And then as we continue to build their skills, that intuition then shifts to intention, because now I thought I was noticing this piece, now I have the tools to respond quickly, now the data is even more powerful, we can see it, turn around, respond, and fill in those gaps of local PD quickly. So it's just along that continuum of where we're at, but we've made some great gains so far.
Yes, trustee.
Do you think, and just out of curiosity, because I see this again as from a PD perspective, do you hear that maybe the teachers are telling another teacher, I got visited and this was my feedback, because you could learn secondhand from another teacher's feedback, you know, going, hey, I didn't think about that, I've never been called out for that, but that's good feedback. Do you think that that's happening at that level? collaborating on
You
what
know,
that's
I would truly be speculating. Where we do start to see some of those conversations come out, because really you're just talking about that's how much everyone trusts not only, you know, their ability to be vulnerable enough to share, but then who they're sharing it with. But where we do see elements of that conversation come out is in PLCs, when we're talking about, okay, hey, guys, I came through and I walked your win time. I was looking for small groups. Let me tell you what I saw thematically so that then we can have a conversation as a team. So there are those conversations, and that's where some of those pieces, kind of those trends that can be brought out and then discussed as a team. Good question.
I just want to make one comment. And it's, again, it has to do with the board and it has to do with the cabinet, because what I just saw was Joe had questions, all the trust, I had questions, but the cabinet, like when Jennifer talked about correlating the TIA and the walkthroughs, that was one of my questions. So this board and this cabinet has grown together where we kind of know what we want to hear, what we want to ask, and then you guys know what you want to present. And it's because of the continuity of the board, and it's because of the continuity of the cabinet. So I just wanted to make that comment first. Any other questions? All right. Thank you, Ms. Zimba.
Thank you.
Next, excellent student outcomes and safety and security, audio enhancements, Mr. Verano.
Good evening, trustees and Dr. Garcia. First, I want to say thank you for your flexibility of being in the event center tonight. I know there's some renovations happening in your normal space, but it's for good reason. MSC is 100% secure now from access from public-facing spaces in the district, so next year, students will be learning in a completely secure environment. Tonight, I'd like to provide an overview of the audio enhancement integrated campus communication and safety platform. This recommendation aligns directly with goal 1.2 of our scorecard, supports student safety and well-being, but it also contributes to operational effectiveness, staff support, and long-term stewardship by consolidating multiple systems into a single platform. So it's kind of a funny story. This process has been just under a year. It actually started with a pretty simple idea. Mr. Schobinger at the high school approached Dr. Garcia and he said, hey, I want to find a PA system that plays music to make the campus more enjoyable as students walk in for arrival. And after Dr. Garcia gave me my marching orders, you know, she sent me an invite to go attend a showcase at Lockhart ISD, which ended up being more than just a PA system. It was this full-on comprehensive safety system. So we identified those opportunities. We then took it down to present it to district leadership team, found some more operational opportunities, took it one step further, presented it to the principals. They found instructional benefits through it, presented to the safety committee, and now we're here tonight for our strategic recommendation. So today our campuses utilize a variety of systems to support communication, safety, and daily operations. We currently utilize Raptor as our main system for visitor management and emergency response protocols, which has served the district well and will continue to play an important role moving forward. But we also have multiple PA systems across the district, separate camera platforms, classroom displays that operate independently from emergency communication systems, and limited methods for distributing information beyond phones and computers. So if you're lacking in the network or in phone service, sometimes you won't even be getting some of the Raptor alerts. So during our assessment, we identified opportunities to better integrate communication, safety, and instructional technology so information can move more efficiently across campuses, particularly during emergencies. So the first was safety impact. We identified opportunities to improve emergency communication, increase situational awareness, provide real-time notifications, and strengthen our overall emergency response capabilities. The second was operational effectiveness. We identified opportunities to streamline communication, reduce reliance on multiple systems, centralize management, and improve how information flows across campuses and departments. What became clear throughout this process was that many of the challenges we were discussing weren't isolated issues, they were all connected. So by addressing both safety and operational effectiveness through a single platform, we saw an opportunity to create a more connected and efficient environment for our students, staff, and campuses, which leads us to our recommendation, audio enhancement. The solution is built around three primary components. First is the EPIC system, which serves as the communication backbone of the system. This includes district-wide communication, emergency notifications, information displays in hallways and common areas like the cafeteria, interactive mapping, and exterior door monitoring. The second system is SAFE, which focuses on safety and emergency response. So this includes the wearable panic badges, silent alerts, real-time geolocation during emergencies when you press the badge, and instant notifications to the appropriate personnel. And the last is like a classroom package. It includes classroom audio systems, teacher and student microphones, and ViewPath classroom cameras that support communication and also instructional delivery. So what makes this recommendation unique is that these components work together as a single ecosystem rather than operating as separate systems. Instead of managing multiple platforms for communication, safety, and classroom technology, audio enhancement brings those functions together into one integrated solution. We will also retain Raptor for visitor management while leveraging audio enhancement for many of the communication and emergency response functions identified during the assessment. Ultimately, this recommendation addresses both of the opportunities we discussed previously, enhancing safety while improving operational effectiveness across the district. And so the benefits of this platform extend well beyond emergency response. First and foremost, it strengthens safety and security through integrated alerts, quicker and real-time notifications, improved situational awareness, and faster coordination during emergencies. It also improves communication by ensuring the right information reaches the right people at the right time. So anytime a staff member presses the panic button, all admin, if they have the app and the main kiosk at the front of the office, will get a notification. It will also tie into the closest camera to where that badge was alerted, and you can pull that up to identify if it's a true emergency or not and help assess. And you can also connect it to PD, which Taylor PD and Taylor Fire were also part of the safety committee briefing of this. Additionally, the cameras in the classroom go farther than just emergency situations. The cameras in the classroom are teacher owned. And so just like Megan talked about walkthroughs, admin can actually ping into the classroom at any point. It's completely controlled by the teacher. And so if there's a real-time emergency and they press that button, admin is able to look into the classroom. But more importantly, if a teacher wants to record themselves and watch themselves back teach a lesson, they can get that feedback there. I know there's a AI technology coming out which will provide, hey, here are some questions that you asked, here's some feedback I can provide you. And then also, if students are absent, teachers can post their videos online so teachers can follow along, or students can follow along from home on the lesson at hand. So there are a lot more benefits than just safety, but now that Megan just talked about walkthroughs, this is just another way that we can kind of have that feedback loop in between staff and admin and teachers. And so if approved tonight, this will be on the consent agenda under purchasing approval. Our next step will be conducting pre-walkthroughs with our technology department and audio enhancement team to finalize implementation plans for each campus. Our first priority will be the safety and communication components of the platform, including the panic badges, emergency notifications, geolocation services, door monitoring, and district-wide communication capabilities. We'll start at the secondary level, starting with Taylor High School, Taylor Middle School, Legacy, and TOC, and then from there we will go into MSE, NPE, and THJ. To minimize disruption to instructional and daily operations, the majority of the installation can occur after hours, with campuses being completed one at a time. Once the safety systems are operational, we will utilize PD days to really just hone in on that implementation piece, because if we're going to invest in a system like this, we really want to make sure teachers and staff really understand the benefits of it and maximize the use of it. And so our goal is to have the full platform operational, district-wide and fully integrated into daily operations by, we're going to really focus in on it this school year and then have it ready to go 100%. No questions from teachers, everyone's ready to rock and roll with it by the following school year, 27-28. Any questions? I also have Brian Bush, he is with Audio Enhancement, if you have any questions.
I have a question.
Yes, Trustee Westerman and then Trustee Carter.
You said the classroom cameras are only activated when they turn it on, or are they just always running, but just the principals would only ping into it upon pressing the button? Or does it, you said it was like teacher-owned or whatever, so do they only turn it on when they want to?
Teachers can turn it on when they want to, but there's, correct me if I'm wrong, right, there's an override. So if there's an emergency, would they press the panic button? Admin can ping into that room.
So they're not just
SROs can also have that live feed as well.
Okay, so it's not just running continuously 24/7, it's got to be activated or initiated on some degree, whether intentionally or emergency. Okay.
Trustee Carter?
I almost forgot my question. You had me thinking of something else. I started thinking about getting requests when kids get in trouble in the classroom and parents want video of what's going on, and so I was going down a whole rabbit hole of that. I work in open records, so I get those all the time, and we don't have cameras in the classrooms. But my question was, in looking at the information that we got, maybe I missed it in the diagrams of Taylor High School, is the field house included in any of the, do they get?
Yes, that will be
Okay.
included in there.
Okay, I just wanted to be sure, because I guess I just couldn't make out.
I
that
think what
building.
we found, especially with our safety audit, was how do we inform cafeteria staff, field house staff, about an emergency situation, especially out in the field house because of the lack of service there, and that's what Raptor is dependent on. And so this ties directly into our network, into our existing infrastructure, so everyone gets the same information at the same exact time.
Any other questions? So how does this system, because I know in this building, the old high school, or some of y'all's old high school, a fire alarm will go off at MSC. They won't hear it on this side of the building. Central office may not hear it. You've got half of the building leaving for a fire drill, half of them now. How is that communication? Is it tied to our systems, or, and then how's everybody know, okay, they're all clear, everybody can go back in? How does that?
So our existing system really is dependent on who has Raptor downloaded, how's the phone service right now, kind of the safety checks that we use. This will tie in this whole building together. Anything happening at MSC, they'll be aware. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, but okay, we'll see. Didn't really answer my question, but I mean, I'm just concerned, like I said, there's been times where even at the high school or somewhere else at the middle school where half the building will hear it, half of them won't. Sometimes we get an update, hey, a false alarm went off at this campus. When those false alarms going off, does that mean if it's here at MSC or here, everybody's going to be notified, everybody's going to know to evacuate, or how does that work?
So campuses that will have access to their campuses specifically, district admin staff will be able to get notifications from every single campus. Correct me if I'm wrong, Ryan?
You guys set the parameters, so if there's specific individuals that want access to the entire district, you can scale it from there. So like an SRO would want to have access to every campus.
I guess maybe I need to clarify a little bit more. Alarm goes off at MSC to evacuate. Does central office and does over 18 all know to evacuate?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, they'll get that notification. We'll have the infotainment screens on all the common areas. Admin, wherever they are on this location, so like SPED will get a notification on their app. They have a Promethean board connected to their office. It'll come to everyone the Promethean board. So anywhere that's tied directly to the infrastructure of this building will be notified on all the screens.
Transportation including?
Transportation can be included.
What about the T Foundation and that little building out there?
Oh, that's good. I will follow up with that.
We set the parameters on all of that. So as long as when our creator, Mr. Ronald, create the, who has what rights and who's assigned to what school, then everyone in that group will receive the same notification, and it will show on all screens, and it will show on all the weekend boards and in the hallway on the rolling screen.
And if there's like a lesson going on, so if they're in the middle of using their Promethean board, it will completely override that lesson and let them know fire drill or fire evacuate.
Thank you. Another quick question. Is this like phase one of something else, or is this going to be like, this is the whole shooting match?
This is the whole, one way I've noticed over the last years, especially talking to other districts, we don't even have wearable panic buttons. And I thought, oh, that's one step that we could definitely accomplish. And then the PA system conversation happened, and then we went down to Lockhart and saw cameras in the classroom, the entertainment screens, all that stuff. It kind of just grew into this comprehensive system that we can continue to build upon, especially as our district grows.
Go ahead. And it's, what I liked about it, and Mark, remember this, what I liked is the standardization and the uniformity across the campuses, right? It's like, it's the same, and there's value in that, and because you're comfortable with those systems. Instead of, we all kind of have our own way to do it. I know we don't, we're pretty much aligned, but at the same time, if this one has one alert system and it's the PA, and this one is Raptor, and that's what they primarily use. Again, there's value in standardization and uniformity, especially in large organizational leadership. So, is that accurate?
Yeah, it's standardized. That's the biggest thing. I think it's standardized. So, like right now, the high school what we look at in their cameras is a completely different platform from what we look at with our elementary school. So if I'm looking at something happening at the elementary, then someone says, hey, Ron, jump on the high school, I have to exit out of that server, log on to a completely different server.
No, I see that. Again, my biggest concern is I know that this building has had issues where, hey, we're doing a fire drill over here, but why isn't central office doing that? Or why, so it's like there's no communication. But if you're telling me that this whole building is to be notified, there's a fire drill, everybody's going to evacuate, and everybody's going to be out there, then that's fine. I have another question, unless somebody has a question. You mentioned you toured Lockhart. What is, did they implement the same system that we're looking at right now, or is it a different platform, or is it a different system?
Correct, it's the same exact system.
And it's district-wide?
District-wide as well, yes, sir.
Have they had issues with it? Or how long have they had it? I mean, that's...
They've had it for like 5 years now, so we just broke ground on their newest middle school last week. I mean, it's technology, right? So technology breaks. So the most common thing is an amplifier could just blow out, and it's covered by a 7-year warranty. So that's the most common. And another is adoption, right? It's a new technology, right? So we need to teach the teachers how to utilize the system. The good thing is we offer PE that's included in this. We also fly out your entire tech team to our corporate headquarters to train them as well.
Okay. Because a big concern for me is system breaks, system renders classrooms 2, 3, and 4 inoperable, and we don't have the skill set or technology or know how to repair it. So now we've just disabled 3 or 4 of our classrooms because of your point to technology. It's got its bugs. So
it does, and they are starting to have a heavy support presence in Region 13 area. So they're not just in Lockhart, they're integrating Hutto, they're in districts all across Central Texas right now. And so, like Ryan was just in Round Rock earlier and asking them, hey, we need you at the board meeting to help support and answer some questions. They're able to get here pretty quickly.
Yeah, it's pretty good project managers that live here in Austin. Only focus on 13
Okay.
I have a tiny comment. I was just going to say to kind of what you started to talk about with the Dalbec campuses. I think the continuity of the students as they roll up through the campuses too, to know that the sounds are familiar to them as well, and not having to get acclimated to a new campuses. I think the continuity of that, because part of the most successful emergencies are executed by you knowing what to do, and that just ensures the students have one more level of knowledge of what to do at a brand new campus when everything else is unfamiliar, and I think that's important.
All right, I got a warm fuzzy feeling about this building, all right? So, again, it's just...
Putting him out of place.
But the time that it does work, I'm going to blame technology. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Yes.
We'll go ahead and keep the board and the community updated on our progress, and just to follow up on some of your questions, I'm sure Mr. Verona took notes, and we'll make sure to follow up specifically with the streamlining of communication, especially since Main Street is such a large building. You have the city in the back, and the crew, and then you have technology, 18+, so we will specifically call that out as far as the work in progress we're making there, communication.
And real quick, Ryan, thank you for being here to help assist. Appreciate it. Any other questions on this? Thank you. Thank you, Ron. All right. Item F. Staff and family survey results. Patrick.
Yes. So we're going to talk first tonight about our staff survey results, which supports goal 2.1, increasing morale, recruitment, and retention. And so as we look at this, the first slide just details how many of our employees took the survey. And I do want to highlight, so as we're talking about this, we had 312 employees, and we currently have 493 total.
Wow.
And so a very good engagement level. People took the survey. We've learned over time to make it very simple, straightforward. It is 5 questions. We asked the same 5 questions last year. And I'm going to show you what the questions are. They're very straightforward, and they also have some opportunities to have an open, it's like an open comment. They can add some other things. So the staff had to indicate where they worked, and it went to everybody. So you see the groups of all the schools, the support staff. We can all filter down the data to look at each individual group. So, so these are the 5 questions, and we are super proud as a team and as a group. The first question is, are you proud to work for Taylor ISD? And if you would look at the improvement from last year to this year, that is a real shining star for our campus leaders, our district leaders, because if you are not proud to work somewhere, then you overall are not willing to want to stay or to give your best. So this was very important. I feel valued and appreciated for my work. We saw some good improvement there. We can count on my supervisor when needed. It basically remained the same, but still very strong. School department leadership is clear and effective. We do know, and the survey indicated, that our staff members do see a difference between what the district communicates and what the campuses communicate, and in the manner in which they communicate. And so that is the difference between those two questions. You're kind of like, well, the Q4 is campus, Q5 is the district. So after we've got this data, what exactly did we do with it? Where are we going to go with it? So on June, it was the first week that we were out of school, like June 2nd or 3rd, I just forgot. We had a day where we had all of the campus principals and assistant principals here, and worked on in different stations. They have each campus group, each other organization got a copy of what their data looks like. So the first step of what they did was they compared how, because remember, if you go back and look at this one, if you go to the next slide, if you go back and look at that first one, that is a culmination of all of that together. So when we use SurveyMonkey, so we can break it down. So I'm looking at the high school, they're over there. The high school knows exactly how they scored on those 5 questions based on what the districts did. So that was the first step. They looked at it. Then they start going through the data, like where did we improve? And the high school had some great, I'm going to pick on him because y'all are the only ones here, had some areas that showed some really great improvement about being proud to work at the high school. And so from that, they go through and they pick out themes and different things from the comments and areas, and they are charged with, over the summer, working on what they can glean from that, and important things that they can take from that, and when we get staff that returns, they will present this data, and this is what we learned from it, and this is what we're gonna do. So this is not just like we're gonna show this and look at it. Each campus group is charged with doing some work around it. But overall, if we're looking for 3 different themes that every campus on some level or another, and at the district level, need to look at campus culture, and that is around just everything, the feel you walk in from the campus, how you feel like you're treated, just all of the things. Staff workload. Overall, a lot of the staff indicated that they feel like they're overloaded. Education has become very complicated. There's, no matter what role you have, there's just lots of work and things to be done. And we clearly know that we still need to work on our positive behavior systems and processes, which before you've heard is called PBIS. It's about school rules, processes, and again, since the high school is here, I'm going to call them out. They got a lot. They actually opened a Duck Dynasty award shop. So when the administrators and teachers catch kids doing great things, they get laminated duck bucks. They even get some laminated golden duck bucks. So just like when they were in elementary school, the high school kids have taken to this, and the teachers have seen some impact on that. So that's just an example of what some positive behavior systems and processes look like. So we know that across the district, there's still some tweaking and adding and supporting that we're going to do there. Before I go to does anybody have any questions about the staff results? Okay. So next up we have the parent results. And so same support. The goal is 3.1, engaging and satisfying our parents. And so again, it's very straightforward. We only ask 5 questions. First question is, are you satisfied with the education your kids are getting? And we saw increases there. Do you feel like your school is safe, a supportive learning environment? We saw increases there. And what about the school parent communication? Saw some increases there, and I'm going to talk about that in just a minute. Would you recommend your school to your neighbor? And so we have 75.27%, which is almost a 6% or 5% increase, saying, yes, I would recommend whatever school their kids at, I would recommend that they look at that. And I think it's on the next, before we go on, let me look real quick. It's on the next slide. We had almost 400 responses, so it's like 398. I mean, we have probably, well, of course we have 2,900 kids, but we have multiple families. But to get to almost 400 responses from parents is not a bad response. So one of the things that we do it.
I said it's a good data set.
Yeah, it's a good data set.
Yeah.
And so we have seen from our parent satisfaction that we have improved in all of the areas, albeit some smaller than the others. Some of our key takeaways that we learned is, we talk a lot about communication. And so that just sometimes means we just send stuff and we communicate it and we put it out and we have a website and we have this, and come to find out we overloaded parents with all kinds of stuff, and they don't know what's important and what's not. And in all reality, what they want to know more of is from the individual teacher about how their personal kid is doing. And some of them actually put that in there. Like, we know what everybody is doing for the next year, but what about my kid? So in an effort to do all, and we're not going to stop communicating and doing all the things, but we're going to be more purposeful and streamlining from what the campuses are putting out, what we're putting out as a district. We're still going to be moving forward with Parent Square. That was a little confusing for some parents. So we know that we're going to have to do some in-service or some training opportunities for parents and staff to do that. We also know that parents overall do feel safe that their kids, some campuses are a little different than the other. Of course, the elementary is a little higher than the secondary, but our secondary schools made great strides in there. So again, not only at the campus are looking, same kind of process that I just described, that they are going to be looking at how do we compare against the district, where do we need to grow, what do we need to work on. And so this gave us some really good information to look at. These are just some overall themes and ideas and things that we know that parents are asking for us to take action on as a district and as a campus. We need to streamline the communication. They want a minimum of a 2-week notice before we host an event. And they want better teacher level updates. That was just clear throughout the data. They want to know what they want to know what their kids' grades are their kids missing reports, or what about their kid? Thanks for telling us that y'all are going to have this festival or this open thing, and we're going to maybe come to that, but we want to know more about our kid. The other thing that was really clear, especially with our parents of our younger students, is they want reduced screen time. They want us to be very intentional about the opportunities that we give them, whether it's on an iPad or their new laptops that they're getting. They're not saying don't do it, but they just want us to be intentional. They want us to continue to combine our technology with actually having a real book in their hand. And we see that happening at the elementary schools a lot. The T Foundation has helped them get their book vending machines. They're going to the libraries. And so we're hoping to, and I know they are, Megan's team is working on rolling that out to the middle school and the high school so they can have some more books in hand and not just their laptops. They just also want us to see just increased intentional rigor. We're already working on that and more time with actual books. They want us to help their continued. I thought I pulled a statement. This is an exact statement from what one of the parents said. Keep pushing, keep setting the bar high. Our kids are capable and worth it. So we had some really good, I thought, feedback from parents. It was a lot of things that were like, I knew that, but now I'm glad the parents had the opportunity to share that. And so we're definitely going to be working, like I said, at the campus level, at the district level, to move their request forward. So any questions? Yes.
I love the fact that parents are acknowledging the technology piece. You're probably going to hear more of it after they've all seen Toy Story 5, because that's what that's all about. But I love the quotes.
Yes.
Y'all need to use that quote as much as possible, because coming directly from a parent, that speaks volumes. And again, I'm impressed with our staff and the parents for taking the time to fill out the survey.
Yes, they did. And like I said, I've been here long enough. We've given 20 question surveys, 35 question surveys, and then we wonder why nobody fills them out. And so Dr. Garcia had some examples, and we just we're going to go straight forward. These 5 questions, we asked them last year, we asked them this year, we're going to ask them again next year. And so, it's just very straightforward, it's easy, and so it's better for them to fill out and get their feedback.
Perfect, thank you. Freedom Riders. All right. Next on the agenda is the reduction of cost and enhancing revenue streams. Jenna?
Okay, tonight we're highlighting the actions of the district and what we've taken to control cost, maximize efficiencies, and strengthen revenue streams. These figures that will be presented tonight represent the collective efforts of staff across the district, including campus teams, principals, budget managers, and department leaders, all working together to ensure responsible stewardship of district resources. So tonight we are on our priority 4, which is efficient financial stewardship. Again, the actions reflect the district's intentional approach to managing resources, improving efficiencies, and ensuring taxpayer dollars are used responsibly. So our 25-26 school year, the budget is still in progress, and the final results we won't know until the audit is completed. But we can, at this point, identify several measures that the district and, of course, all the players have taken to reduce those costs and enhance the revenue streams. One of the, when we have larger purchases, mainly Ron's team and technology, state-approved purchasing cooperatives are a must. Not only do they meet the state requirements to have board approval on anything up to $100,000 and over, they also, we work on contracts that have already been vetted. The purchasing cooperatives have already gone out, done the bidding, and gotten the best prices. So this is a great resources that our district uses to make sure we're getting the best negotiated price. Competitive purchasing and discounts. So we also, of course, try to purchase in bulk where we can because you get a better rate. I know some campus secretaries that use everything. They look through Amazon. I mean, they struggle and make sure that they are getting the very best price. I've seen coupons before. So yes, that another piece, our payroll department does a great job at reviewing, making sure that if we have a termed employee, if someone's leaving before their contract, they are reviewed to make sure that there aren't any overpayments, because of course we're an accrued wage payroll, and so because some departments only work 10 months, they get 12 checks, so there's an accrued amount that we have to save to be able to pay those positions outside of those 10 months. So that is something that a best practice has been put in place, and our payroll department does a great job in protecting the budget. The other piece is software. Technology has gone in and made tremendous strides this year as far as looking for the best price. If it's not the best price, what about the service that we get with that new provided service or product? So one thing that comes into mind is the, what's the new name, Ron, of the new line? So this is a product that we're using in classrooms. It's the boards that they use to be able to give instruction. So these, they're about the same price. That's what we paid the other vendor in the past, but we get 7 years warranty and we get free training, which is not what we received before. We were basically on our own to figure out and train, or we could pay for the training. So this was a substantial savings on technology with that group. Here's the big number. Okay, so each year as we budget, we have to be able to be ready for any new opportunities or challenges that we might face. We have to be ready to pivot if we've got a student that needs extra help, or if there's needs that we need to supply. One example this year that we noticed was, I think we had at least 3 one-to-one student needs. So there were special education students that had IEPs that required a one-to-one tutoring. It's tutoring. They would go with them in the classroom. So we were able to, because of the way we budgeted and protected and the readiness to be able to support those students. At the same time, we have several groups that have gone out looking for other ways to create revenue. One piece is the cell tower that the board has looked at previously. That is going to be a revenue stream for our future. The other is, this year we received the NIMFA. I know that Ron worked really hard with the campus to get the application that was required. He's going to do that again here in a couple of weeks, get the second year. We won't receive as much, but we will get another allocation on that. Looking at these numbers, the expenditure increases, we saw $853,000 in increases. So that's staffing, that's supplies that might have been unknown at the point of budget, and any other contracted services if we weren't able to It's usually special education where we have special, like SLPs that we don't necessarily have anyone to fill those positions. We have to go ahead and contract those out. And then with the additional revenue, we received 1.2 million. And that brings our total estimated savings at this point to 384,000. Other cost savings, service-based, so that's what I mentioned earlier with those new line boards that we have purchased for this year. They, again, the warranties were outstanding, and the free training, just phenomenal. We'll be able to use the training. Any new people that come in, we'll be able to supply that training. The LED lighting replacement, this is, of course, the district-wide implementation of LED solutions, and it will provide long-term benefits because of course, the students will be able to see a little bit brighter, but also it's a reduction in electricity that is expected to go up in the near future. All right, any questions?
I think we're good. Thank you. All right, next on the agenda is the consent agenda, which consists of the minutes for the regular meeting, May 18th, 2026, tax report, item C, monthly financial report, item D, approved final 2025-2026 purchasing approval, item E, approved final 2025-2026 budget amendment, item F, approved successful transition education program, MOU, item G, approved City of Taylor School Resource Officer, MOU, item H, approved TEA waivers, low attendance days for 2025-2026 school year, modified schedule state assessment testing days, waiver for 26-27 and 27-28 school years, staff development waiver for 2026-2027 school year. Item I, approved Edwell Partner MOUs. Item J, approved revision to policy BE local. Item K, approved board meeting dates for July 2026 to 2027. And then item L, approved innovative course proposal. Is there any item that trustee would like to remove for further discussion? Seeing that there are none, I'm open to a motion to approve the consent agenda as provided.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as provided.
Second.
Motion by Shorty, second by Nita.
Sure.
All right. All in favor, raise your right hand. Anyone opposed, do the same. Motion carries 7-0 with no abstentions. Thank you, trustees. All right, item 10, item for discussion. Review annual opt-out for homeschool. Coach Flowers. SB 401.
That's what you got. All right, let's make sure. All right. What we're going to do is revisit Senate Bill 401, and that is also connected with Goal 1.3, which I'm involved with as far as helping increase engagement through real-world experiences. And I think that's pretty telling. You know, when you go through the research of our kids in general and all of our schools from a secondary standpoint, I know over at TMS, you know, we've at least had, 81.5% in terms of a student being involved in the extracurricular activity. And that's 81% of the whole school. And also with the Legacy is 100%. And then with THS is 77. So that was a 2024, 2025 results. We'll get more information about that for this past school year as well. But our kids are involved, and I think that is something that needs to be celebrated, something that is special to our district, because it's not like that everywhere. All right, with the Senate Bill 401, it's mainly the UIL Equal Access Program, and long story short, in that last year it was a rule, well, it was a bill passed in terms of will you, as a district, opt in to homeschool or opt out to homeschool? And when we're saying opt in and opt out, we're talking about homeschool having access to athletics, fine arts, UIL academics. So when people hear UIL, they mainly think athletics. It's not always the case, because there's also UIL academics, UIL fine arts, and with fine arts you get band, choir, one act play, all those things as well. And I think that's very important for us to discuss, because with new information that was given out, we might want to revisit and make sure we're making a decision that's going to encompass everyone. So I just spoke on it earlier, and you see these pictures and with our kids and what they do, you know, from an athletic standpoint, from the fine arts standpoint, and academics. And this will also open the door for those homeschool students to participate in all of these sports if we were to opt in. When we talk about potential opportunities, I'll speak upon, you know, the pros and the cons of all three of these. With expanding access, we already talked about opening the door for residential students to participate in public school extracurricular activities. That's all fine and well, and that's great. We want to make stuff available for everyone. But we also, you know, got to think about that they're not getting a chance to experience the whole Taylor ISD experience. You know, with us being in the class, with them being in the classrooms, with them being with our students as well full time, you know, and our teachers full time. So obviously we get the pro with opening it up, but we also get the con with them not being able to get the full experience. Diverse talent, you know, opening the door is a broader pool for this artistic and athletic talent. But you know, then again, are we talking about 100 kids, or are we talking about 4 kids? You know, so there's pros and cons that goes along with that. The unified community, I think that's something that's not necessarily a con. You know, we want to make sure that we want to make things available for all of our kids in Taylor, Texas. I think that's important as well. But with that being said, we talked about the other the cons. $1,500 per student per activity. So that's some information that we found out about. If somebody wants to participate in softball as well as band, those are 2 different sports or 2 different activities. You get $1,500 funded by the state for both of those. So that is something that is different, something that we found out as well. And, you know, that's something we need to think about. Maintaining the standard, you know, Taylor ISD standard. So for a student to be eligible homeschool-wise, they'll have to pass a standardized test. So Iowa Test of Basic Skills, Stanford, California test. That is something they must pass. Now, once they pass that, they must be involved in also an accredited homeschool program that the UIL has allowed, you know, throughout their system. They still have to go by our rules in terms of the UIL rules and the Taylor ISD rules, and no pass, no play, having a 70 above in all the courses. All of our code of conduct and all of our athletic handbook rulings that we have, they must go by those as well. So that doesn't change. So also along with that, that's the attendance, you know, as far as what we do from a Taylor ISD standpoint in terms of attendance in practices, games, all that. So all that applies. You can go back. And then the district residency, obviously that's open to all students who live here in Taylor ISD if we were to opt in. But when we opt out, we allow those students to go to neighboring districts that do allow homeschool. And kind of how that works in terms of an eligibility standpoint. So if we were to opt in, those students will be allowed to come back to our school district. They will actually have a choice, so they can choose to stay at whatever district they're in, but they can also choose to come back to our district. If they come back to our district, they'll have a clean PAPF, that's eligibility, so they will be able to start right away and return it to our district. So that's some information that we also received. Now, what is a little bit different is if they were to start public school, and then all of a sudden, hey, I want to go and do homeschool. If you were to do that, you will not be able to play athletics for a full calendar year, or athletics or any UIL event for a full calendar year. So that's something that kind of curbs the whole, hey, I just want to do homeschool and just participate in activities and not attend school. That stops that. And if we were to opt in, implementation plan, today obviously is the policy discussion, and discussion to opt in, opt out. August 1st is the last day we have to opt in, so I'm assuming that the next board meeting will be talking about either if you're going to make a decision to opt in or opt out. Next will be the communication of the decision and informing the community about it. And the next step, deciding on with the decision, with the district will work on systems and policies and procedures to align with what goes on. Any questions?
Trustee Mitchell. Coach, that brought up a point. I know some of the neighboring districts are already doing it, and they have some of our Taylor kids. So basically, what we're looking at in all extracurricular activities, not just football or basketball or baseball, was this band or one act play or anything, ag, those kids, because they still, the few that I know still live in Taylor, we can pretty much, as a district, legally go back after those kids, right? Or the parents, I'm saying the kids, the parents.
So if we were to opt in, we are now the home district. Yeah. So if your home district provides, the opportunity to participate in extracurricular activities, they can make a decision, either stay where they're at, or they can come back. And when they come back, they will be eligible right then to participate. So oftentimes with, say, these kids in just public schools in general, there's a little bit difference, let's say you went to a neighboring school district, but you stayed here, they would possibly have to have a DEC meeting to allow you to come back. With this, you'll be allowed to come back, no DEC meeting.
And they can still, and the parents can still homeschool them like they
Yes.
doing, am I correct?
Yes,
Okay.
as long as that program is accredited.
Yeah.
So it has to be accredited since they're over there in the neighboring school district, because the UIL didn't allow you to do it. So as long as it's accredited, because some people will just say, hey, we're just going to bring our kid back home and homeschool them ourselves. That doesn't necessarily work out like that if you want to participate in UIL activities.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Pollak and then Trustee Western.
It sounds like we're either more informed this go around, or maybe things have tightened up a little bit since it was implemented last year. I like the fact that it has to be an accredited program, homeschool program. I like the fact that there are standardized testing that have to be done. To me, that shows a little more accountability. As a piano teacher, I've seen well-taught homeschool kids. I've seen not so well-taught homeschool kids. And I'm hoping that putting some of these parameters on expectations and accountability for these homeschoolers will make sure that these kiddos that are coming to participate in these UIL activities are really getting an education at home. The reason I say that is I'm just wondering how our existing students feel about these kids coming in who, how do they know whether they're passing? How do they know whether they're getting a certain number of hours in an education a day when our existing students are, going to school from 8 to 4 and doing all these other things? So I think we need to kind of keep the students, the participating students in mind when we think about whether we want to open up this door. I see lots of pros, but I see lots of concerns in doing it. Certainly we want to open up opportunities for students if they're homeschool kids to participate in either athletics or fine arts, but not at the expense, or not really expense, that's not the right word, but to the current situation of existing students. You know what I'm saying? Does
I
that
know what
make
you're saying, I
sense?
know what you're saying. And I know on my end, I really look at it as, however it goes, if they were to come back, or we'll have an opportunity for them to experience Taylor ISD. And I think the kids are your resume. Once they're around your kids and all of a sudden athletics is over, all of a sudden band is over, and they're going into class and you sitting there waiting on your mom, I think that's a little bit different. And I think they'll say, hey, I want to be with my friends or whatnot. And I think we have to give ourselves an opportunity to capture our kids if that's the case.
And I can speak on the grading part. So for the homeschool UIL eligibility, the student has to be enrolled in a, like you said, an accredited program, but it can't be an online public school. It has to be, say, there are several religious homeschool programs that are accredited, things like that. But they will have a process with me, with the Director of Student Services, as far as submitting their 3 weeks and their 9 weeks grading report, and then they have a verification that they will have to do to show that accredited program that they are in. They have to apply, and then they have due dates on when those items are submitted to me for UIL purposes. So it will not be, well, the mom or the parent just submits a letter grade for the subjects that they're supposed to be taking. So no, they will have, there's an actual process for it and a form that they will fill out at the 3 week, at the progress report time, and at the 6 week grading report time at
I appreciate you saying that, because I have, like, yeah, there's just, you know, I'll chalk it up to my lack of familiarity with homeschool processes and reportings and accountability, so I appreciate that. And I guess kind of what Anita was saying, that checks a big, you know, like thought with me is, you know, you've got students that are, you know, in school from 8 to 4, possibly got there at 6 a.m. for practice, you know, so they're tired, and then they still have a game on Friday or Thursday or whatever. Homeschool doesn't have the same aggressive, you know, schedule that public school does, and you've also got students that might be they have the freedom in their schedule, which is a benefit to homeschooling. If you've got a child that you want to invest in baseball, sports, singing, choir, whatever, that you're able to put them in additional lessons. And, you know, and that's happy for them, but are they blocking another child from being, you know, like, hey, this kid is way ahead of me, but they have time to practice in spaces I don't. I have to go to school during the day.
One of the rulings that they said that you're not allowed to have personal lessons within the school hours. So that's something that URL's put in there as well, to kind of curb that as well, as far as them having more time to train, practice, and also look at it as a, you know, from a mentality of, it's not necessarily we're trying to compete because we're trying to be on the same team.
Right.
You know, so if you have that type of mindset towards it, it's like, hey, this person is helping the team and we're trying to do things to collectively to be better, not necessarily, oh, I gotta be on top of you, I gotta beat you, you know.
Right.
And obviously not all sports are like that. You know, you got individual stuff like golf, tennis, you know, things like this. So it's a little bit different, but UIL did pass that to try to curb as far as people getting personal time to improve.
Trustee Carter.
I think what's being said without being said is that the bottom line is you're gonna have, at some point, one or multiple of our kids going, do they have to do no pass, no play? Do they have to do their grade check? They don't need to know that information, but that's the kind of information that kind of just quiets that whole thought of another kid going, well, they're homeschooled, so do they have to do the same thing I do? Yes, they do. Done. You know, they're held to those standards. So it's just information for our own kids too, to just kind of know in general what a homeschooled child has to do and be done. Because I think that's probably a big concern, that's the general concern that would come up from either a parent or a student themselves. You know, do they have to do what I do? So.
Yes, trustee Taylor.
I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but do you have any idea, I mean, have you been approached by homeschool kids? Do you have any idea? Are we talking about 50 kids? Are we
I've
talking
been-
about 2 kids?
Since I've been athletic director, I've been approached by 6 through email.
6?
6 through email, yes, ma'am.
The other thing that I'm concerned about is, will this be more responsibility for the coaches, sponsors? In other words, now they're gonna have a relationship with that parent, you know, go out to their house and say, you know, show me what the kids are doing. I mean, I know they can pull up these grades or whatever, but I would think you would want personal contact. Is that gonna put added responsibility on?
With those programs, those accredited programs, they're gonna be connected with us, Ms. Ogendary,
So she'll get
so it's all connected. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, I know that with that first year, with it being so new, we all kind of agreed last year, like, hey, let's say no this year and let's try it out and see what, but hearing that there's potential out there, if we said yes, if we voted on this and said yes, then would we look at it again? Is this a year-by-year thing?
Yes, in my opinion, I believe.
Yeah, okay,
Every year we'll look at it.
yeah, okay.
So, I was sitting on a panel, and they were asking, I can't even remember the question. Rachel was there. And that topic came up. And we were talking about good governance and listening, you know, recommendations from the district and things like that. And I actually made the comment, like, you know, I think that's going to come up again with our board. And I personally voted against it. But I might have to relook at this and get more information. So I'm getting that, and you're answering a lot of the questions I had that other trustees had. I did want to just get a real quick follow-up, Coach. Is it my understanding, because you said they can't get any personal training or personal workouts and things like that, does that include like our middle school athletes, say they come in, if they're wanting to play with select teams or they're wanting to play with travel teams or things like that, does that include those
So
type of
generally,
leagues?
those are after school, so the ruling was between school hours.
During school.
Yes, sir.
So for example, a band kid couldn't get a private flute lesson
At 12 o'clock.
during the day.
Yes, ma'am.
How would they differentiate, because band students have band as a class where they're getting practice and learning. What's the difference between a private lesson for a homeschooled kid and it considered their class time?
Well, but if they're participating in UIL event activities, they're going to be in that band class.
They have to come to band class, which is 4th period.
Thank you.
Yes,
Okay.
Or to a theater class.
Okay.
I got some people running some underground lessons out there. Got my eye on you, Anita.
Any questions or comments? You know, that's what's great about talking about these things, and then actually the opportunities, because I know there's certain programs that we have brought and we've tried, and if they weren't successful, we were able to just say, okay, let's move on, and this might be one of those opportunities for us to say, hey, let's see what happens within this. And we can't just do it for a year, I think. We need to give it an opportunity to see if we can, it can take off, but, yeah, are there any other questions? Yes, go ahead.
I think it's good, you bringing it back to the board, Coach Flowers, and just see what comes out of it. Because when would you be, the district be looking for a recommendation? Like, I heard you say August, you said something about August 1st?
August 1st is the final day you can opt in or opt out. So,
Because I do know we have to try, we have to try something. And I'm talking about students across the board. You can't just keep losing kids to neighboring districts, because you do nothing, you get nothing. We have to try something. Not saying that it's gonna pass, but I was totally against it, like Marco was last year. But talking to different people and knowing different things like I know now personally, I'm open-minded about it, because
I was against it. So I totally understand.
Yeah.
When they gave me more information, I was like, that's something to think about, you know? We don't want to pigeonhole ourselves and say no and then force our kids to go somewhere else. And then we sit here and think about it and we keep it open and then maybe we might capture that kid, so.
Yeah, that was a great comment, by the way. I mean, you were selling that to.
Waiting to sell this time, give me information.
Can I just, I guess, want to ask, is there any data to, again, at the risk of sounding negative, the opposite end of that, is there anything that, I mean, I know this has only been in place a year, you know, in the other parts of the state, of, you know, maybe parents keeping their kids in the school because, oh my gosh, my boy loves football so much, I couldn't imagine homeschooling him, you know. And a lot of times you have homeschool that ends up stopping at high school anyways, because high school academics are much more challenging anyway, but, or middle school is like, okay, finally I can homeschool my kid because now he can still participate in X, Y, or Z sport. Is there any data that shows it actually has reversed on, and I'm not saying masses and like, you know, 50 or whatever, but could it do that? Have you seen anything, or is there any conversation?
And I'm guessing because they just passed it last year, so I can definitely look and do some research on it.
Again, it may be too new to actually know anything, and again, you're talking about 6 kids wanting to come on, it could be 6 kids going off, but just kind of curious, could we lose kids to the homeschooling program because they still get the benefit of being able to do band or choir or, you know, football or whatever? Just, I don't know, a thought. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? All right, Code Fire, appreciate it. Thank you. All right. Next on the agenda is item 11, new business. Item A, consideration of possible action to approve compensation packages.
Good evening. The administration is requesting the board to consider and approve, or consider for approval, one of the 2 proposals for compensation increases for employees on the teacher, clerical, paraprofessional, auxiliary, and administrative professionals' pay schedules. The proposed compensation increases exclude superintendent and student workers. So option 1 is 2.5. It includes a 1% for eligible employees on the teacher pay scale at midpoint, as well as a 1% at midpoint for eligible employees on the administrative professional pay scale. The increase of $1 per hour for eligible employees on the clerical and paraprofessional pay structure, and $1.50 per hour for eligible employees on the auxiliary pay structure. Option 2 is a cost increase of $2.7 million. That is a 2% for teachers and administrative professionals at midpoint. Again, increase of $1 per hour for clerical and paraprofessional pay structures, and $1.50 for auxiliary structures. The pay structures presented are designed with a minimum, midpoint, and maximum pay. Again, both proposals are based on increases on midpoint where they apply. Employees are eligible for the increase if they complete at least 90 days of their 25-26 assignment. Employees already assigned a pay rate for the 26-27 assignment are not eligible for the raise applicable for employees promoted and new pay rate already determined for the 26-27 agreement. So administrative recommendation is for option 2.
Questions? So if I was to propose the motion, we don't need to do this as long as I motion that we, option 2. All right. So are there any questions?
I just have a comment.
Yes.
I mean, come on, $200,000 is the only difference? When we're talking about 2 commas in a, you know? I'm not trying to minimize that $200,000 is nothing, but I mean, the difference it would make in an employee's life. I make a I move.
You move
I
to,
move. For two.
I second Marilyn.
I second her.
Two.
Two.
All right. Ready to go with Anita. So I have a motion by trustee Tennell to approve compensation package option 2 as presented, second by trustee Bullock. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. Anyone opposed, do the same. Motion carries 7-0. Thank you, trustees. Yes.
Just want to thank you trustees. Year over year, you have made significant investments in our staff and our students. We are seeing gains and we are on a momentum. And I just appreciate this board for recognizing the dedication of our staff, investing in them and investing in our students. And I talk a lot about this in our community meetings, but we want the very best in front of our kids. And this investment helps us put the right foot forward in continuing the momentum and the great gains. So thank you, trustees. Yes, ma'am.
I've never called the TV station, although it's crossed my mind. But I'm thinking that they ought to interview you as to what it's like to give your, as opposed to some of our neighboring who are having to explain on TV why they're not giving us red
I second that.
cent. So how about there's an anonymous call
You know, it's true, because they do so much, there's just so much focus on
on everybody who's
just not unfavorable topics that there's just not enough spotlight on the good stuff.
Yeah, hello.
That's what our media does.
I know.
I said it out loud.
Outside
Thank you so much.
All right, we'll get back on track. Item B, consideration of possible action to approve compensation resolution for 2026-2027 school year. Janet?
As part of Taylor ISD's District Priority 2, which is the exceptional workplace climate, tonight we would like to present for consideration the following. The impact incentive. It's a one-time incentive. It is $2,500 for full-time employees who qualify. Part-time, that amount is $1,250. The eligibility, a Taylor ISD employee must have been employed at the district at least 30 consecutive days and have completed their 25-26 school year assignment, not have been placed on administrative leave for 25-26 or 26-27, not have resigned or been terminated during 25-26 or 26-27, have been offered and accepted a contract or received a notice of reasonable assurance for the 26-27 school year, be employed by the district in good standing and on the first duty day of the 26-27 school year and successfully complete their 26-27 contract. The initiative payment will be made no later than October 30th, 2026. Substitutes would not be eligible. The second incentive is called the retention incentive. It's a one-time, $500 for full-time employees who qualify and $250 for part-time employees who qualify. The Taylor ISD employee must be employed and in good standing no later than January 11, 2027, and should have completed their 26-27 contract. Payment will be made no later than January 31st, 2027. Substitutes would not be eligible. The administrative, we recommend the approval of the one-time $2,500 impact incentive and the one-time $500 retention incentive for eligible employees.
Are there any questions or comments?
Just clarification, it's all staff, regardless of whether you're administrative or teacher?
Yes, it's
The second
everybody.
one.
Okay.
Yes.
All
the
staff that's
second, as
full-time
long-
based on those qualifications or requirements?
Yes.
Yeah, it's everybody.
As long as they're employed by January 11th, 2027. We had to put a stop, put a date on it so that we could follow through.
Any other questions? I'll need a trustee to make a motion.
Make a motion to go with the recommendation on the agenda.
A motion by trustee Mitchell to approve the resolution approving the one-time $2,500 impact incentive and the one-time $500 incentive, retention incentive.
A second.
Second by trustee Carter. Before we take a vote, are there any further discussions or comments before we?
Do we have a figure for that?
What was that?
Do we have a figure for that, a total?
What is the total?
I believe it was 1.5 million for these two put together.
Put together.
I can confirm that later, but I believe it was 1.5.
Any other comments or before, because once I call a vote, we're going to end it and go to the next line item. Yes, comment.
Well, I just wanted to make note that we spend a lot of time during the year rounding with our staff. The leadership team and I personally round with department chairs. This is something that came up about compensation. We're doing a lot of sign-on bonuses for new people, but we also see the gains that we're making from the survey feedback with our parents, with our own staff, with the academic gains. It all goes hand in hand. And we really felt that we wanted to make sure that our current employees feel recognized. This is where that idea came from, was from one of those rounding sessions and hearing that direct feedback. Also, the one-time payment, we received feedback 2 years ago that employees just love this time of year, around December, January, getting a little extra boost to help out with different things right around the holidays. And then in addition, which is part of the compensation package, is that longevity stipend to honor the staff that have been here 5, 10, 15, 20 years. We had some employees calling saying that we put too much in their bank account, and they thought it was an error. But this was part of that longevity stipend that you guys approved of. My whole point is, for our current staff, we want to make sure that they're honored, and they're going to have something to be recognized for at the beginning of the year with the $2,500 if you approve, with the middle of the year incentive of $500, and then end of the year for 5 or more years of service. So our staff will hopefully see our investment throughout the entire year, from the start to the very end of the school year. Thank you, trustees, for your consideration.
Any further discussion or any questions? All in favor, raise your right hand. Anyone opposed, do the same. Motion carries 7-0. No abstentions. Thank you, trustees. All right, next on the agenda, consider and possible action to approve the 2026-2027 proposed Taylor ISD budget.
We are pleased to present the 26-27 budget for the Taylor Independent School District. The budget has been prepared in accordance with state regulations and local policies, covering the required 12-month period from July 1st, 2026 through June 30th, 2027. Attached is the final draft of the proposed budget for 2026-27. Some of the highlights that we would like to hone in on and consider regarding local revenue, the Williamson Central Appraisal District will release the certified values by July 25th. TEA will use those certified values as a basis for calculating the maximum compressed tax rate and will release the results to the district in August. Current estimates indicate the district will be subject to recapture in 26-27 school year. State revenues, 26-27 budget was prepared using the estimated ADA of 2620 with an attendance rate of 93.5. Now that 93.5% is only for budget. It is nothing compared to what our goals are for making sure that our students are in the classroom as ever possible. So again, 93.5% is not what our goal for our classroom. It's just the budgeting tool we're using. The Texas Comptroller School District Property Value Study for 26-27 school year will be released at the end of January 2027. This is what TEA uses to calculate the state funding portion of school district funding. Special education funding has been moved from classroom instructional arrangement setting to a tiered service intensity model. We don't yet have that defined as far as what the methodology they will use to be able to fund special education this year. My understanding is we're reporting based on both ways, the old way and new way, and whichever, at the end of the year, whichever funding mechanism gives us the most funding, that's what TA will honor. Looking at 240 revenue, which is our child nutrition, totals on the budget are based on estimated revenues and expenditures with a guaranteed return of $140,000 per the Food Service Management Company contract, which is Sodexo. Our revenue for the 599, which is our debt service, the district's financial advisor will continue to monitor the district's debt service to ensure current and future debt obligations are met. Additional guidance is expected from TA related to debt service hold harmless. The estimated expenditures for our debt service are based on the current debt and the anticipated debt on our upcoming bond sale. We don't yet have that posted. That wouldn't be on any of the state-regulated bond posting websites like the Bond Review Board. Because we're in the process of selling that bond, we're anticipating that new debt, so you will see that on our budget as well. Due to the tax rate information not being available to Texas school districts until July and August, administration will wait to adopt the tax rate. The deadline for all school districts to adopt that tax rate is September 30th. Administration is recommending approving the 26-27 proposed Taylor ISD budget. Are there any questions about the budget?
Seeing that there are none, I'm open to a motion to approve the 2026-27 proposed Taylor ISD budget as presented.
So moved.
I'll second.
Motion by trustee Miller, second by trustee Westerman. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. Anyone opposed, do the same. Motion carries 7-0. No abstentions. Thank you, trustees. Item D, consideration and possible action to approve the 2026-27 employee compensation manual.
Yes, I just want to share a few changes and updates that were made to you. You have the opportunity to look over the compensation manual. I put it in the board update for Friday, but I just want to highlight a couple of changes and from what we've typically done in the past. One of the new changes that you're going to see is that with some guidance from TASB, we took the manual and really expanded the sections that detailed how the salaries are determined and calculated, and tried to provide a clear resource for employees to go back to. Just for an example, when we talk about 2% off the midpoint and $1 off the midpoint and all these kinds of things, it gets very confusing. And so in the manual itself, if somebody needs a resource, because we'll post this on the website, they can go click on it, they can look at it and say, okay, this is my pay grade, this is an example, just so they can have more information. So it is a little more lengthy than it is in the past. The other thing as well in this compensation manual, we have addressed the retire, rehire adjustments that were allowed to us by House Bill 2 to change. And as we've looked at and we've talked about before, we are going to grandfather the people that we currently have that are retired. We are down to, I believe, just 4 that are left, and those 4, I could be wrong, it could be 5, but we will continue to go as we've always done and pay their fees to the TRS and not have to go back. I mean, not to pass that on to them, we will take on that. However, moving forward, it will be looked at as a individual position like by individual need to look at each one individually, I guess is what I'm trying to say. The plan is that we will be passing those fees on to any new employee. When you think about, like, and you want to get an example of what that is, it is about 16% on top of their salary that we are responsible for, that they, so anyway, but we will look in case that there is an example of somebody that is very high need, a high need position, we will look and consider how we'll handle that. So that is also in this compensation manual. The other thing too that is different, it's different from anything we ever had, the teacher pay scale is actually at the bottom. And if you noticed that we did increase beginning teacher pay, but you're going to see for the very first time there is an amount that says for uncertified teachers. And I know you're thinking like, well, I thought everybody had to be certified. Well, everybody in the elementary school, pre-K through 5, has to be certified. We are still looking at working on, and we'll talk more about that as the year goes on, about making sure that all of our middle school and high school people are certified. But the state now says, if you do not have a certification, you do not have a choice. This is the money you're going to, I shouldn't say the state, we cannot pay them the same thing. You have one salary, which has to be less than the beginning, has to be lower than your beginning of year teacher makes that is certified, and you'll see that on there. So it's at the very bottom, and you can look at it. So if you're wondering like, what is that? So for example, if we have a teacher at the middle school, and I'm not sure we do, so this is just an example, that doesn't have a certification. They're not in a program. More likely this is going to be in the high school that's going to look at, it's not, if they're covered by our DOI, that's not them. If we hired somebody at the last minute, they're going to work on it, they're maybe going to get in a program, because we've had to do that. We haven't had to do that lately. We cannot pay them anything but what we've got listed. And so, so I just wanted to call your attention to that. That is different, that is new. But tonight we'd like you to approve our compensation manual that supports all the various ways that we provide our compensation to our staff, and any additional stipends you see in there are a part of how we also compensate our staff. So if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer. But those are just the major highlights to them. Again, I'd also like to remind you, you've already approved, we increased our special education stipends for special ed teachers, for our life skills teachers, our behavior teachers, and also our inclusion teachers to be more on market. They've already done that, but that's also in there too.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing that there are none, I'll move to motion to approve the 2026-2027 employee compensation manual as presented.
So move.
Second.
Motion by trustee Boggs, second by trustee Tell. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. Anyone opposed, do the same. Motion carries 7-0. Thank you, trustees. Item E, consideration of possible action to approve annual renewal of good cost security resolution.
Every year we have to bring this to you, and this over there maybe if I forget something, please add it. We bring this forward is because we do not have a police officer at every campus. We currently have a police officer at an SRO at Taylor High School and middle school, and we have security guards at every other campus. But the state still requires to do a good cause exemption for not having a police officer at each campus. So I will be bringing that to you every year.
Any questions? Comments? All right, seeing that there are none, I'll open the motion to approve the annual renewal of good cause security resolution as presented.
So move.
Second.
Motion by trustee Carter, second by trustee Mitchell. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. Anyone opposed, do the same. Motion carries 7-0 with no abstention. All right. The item 12, personnel, items for information. This is information only. The trustees, you had an opportunity to look at the resignation of personnel and then the election of personnel. Next on the agenda is the calendar. Next board regular meeting is July 20th, 2026 at 6:30 PM. That's what we approved on the consent agenda. Appreciate you guys going through with that, moving our meetings in. And the meetings, even if there's a public hearing, they are going to start at 6:30.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Item 14, any items for agenda items for food for thought? If you want to real briefly talk about anything in SLI that would be the time.
I'll go. As a newbie, and attended, SLI, and as a new trustee, you attend the Texas Trustee Institute. I told Mr. Ortiz this, and I'm sharing it publicly, that I saw firsthand, and even in just a 2-day glimpse of the value add of having a master trustee on this board, the professionalism, how far we are ahead of so many other school boards around us across the state of Texas that are there's just an element of professionalism and expectation that this board already has. I've said over and over again publicly that I'm so proud to be a part of this. But I love the fact that to be able to see, first of all, I had to mind my P's and Q's because if anybody saw my name, they went, "Oh, you're with Marco, right?" I'm like, "Yes, I am." No, I'm kidding. But anyways, there's such a level of professionalism and that he brings, and that he's, first of all, is every bit of respected across the state of Texas by other school board members, as you guys might even begin to think, or more. But I do appreciate feeling confident is with as little as I do know that there were just spaces that we are in a good place, and I know that he brings that. And again, I know you guys know that, but I'm telling you, as a new person coming in from the community to sitting behind the dais, it's significant. So I just want to again echo what I know has been said to you dozens of times, but seeing it firsthand from both sides of this table, I appreciate that, and I think that it shows the importance of probably always trying to have a school board member on that pipeline, because you don't ever want to lose what we have now with what he brings to the table. So thank you.
Well, just real quick, that's great that you're part of a team.
Oh, I
And it's all
appreciate
of us,
that.
and you're going to be part of that team, because I couldn't be who I am if it wasn't for the others, for everybody on this board. So I appreciate that. Yeah, it's a team, and you're part of this team now.
I appreciate that.
All right.
I have one
Yes,
comment.
yes.
Sorry. I don't remember the class, trying to look it up right now, but Anita and I were both in this class with Beeville. The one thing, they do a lot of what we're already doing. When they talked about going out for Bond or Vader and how they engage the community, how they have, like we have a Meet the Ducks, they have their Meet the whatever that night. A lot of those things we already do. Although there's probably some we could take to another level. They don't just include maybe athletics or say all fall sports, it's your CTE groups. It is the entire school. But the one thing I took from them that I asked a question, they do a Veterans Day event, and so do we. They do theirs all together. It's not by campus. And I think that's the one thing we need to strive to do, is to have an all-inclusive, one big event where everybody can attend. And I think you have more people attend because I don't feel split, and it's all one event to honor our soldiers. So I think that was one of the biggest takeaway I took from that, because I saw a picture and I looked and there was a lot of people, and that was my first question, was like, do you do it all together or do you do it separately? It's like, nope, it's one big event. So.
Yeah, when Cheryl told me about that, I was like, man, that makes it a lot for veterans.
Mhm.
You know, it's like, now we're not having, like, I gotta go to this one, and I gotta go to this one, and we can just have one central, and we can all attend, that would be outstanding.
But it is, I understand and I want to acknowledge the logistical, like, hurdles that we would have to do in this space, and
Yeah.
like, I mean, it would have to be at the athletic complex.
And they do theirs.
You know,
They do theirs
so-
at their football field. So yeah.
Yeah.
So again, just I was happy to see that we're already doing things. Is what I took from that class. That we're already doing a lot of stuff, but that was the one biggest thing. So.
Food for thought, I'll segue off of that if you're done. I was not at SLI, but as we were on the precipice of America's 250th birthday. Yeah, remember, there's a lot of great stuff on Netflix right now that talks about, like, it's got the documentaries with Washington and just like what our forefathers saw. And like, we are such a baby as a country. If you've traveled, but you're seeing on social media right now, everybody and how impressed they are with of the unity and the freedom and the vastness and the expansiveness of our country and how great it is. And it's not just what this story is told on international, what they see everywhere else. So we live in the greatest city, in the greatest state, in the greatest country on the one earth that we know of. So God bless America. 250 years old.
Okay. At this time, as determined by the Board of Trustees, the board may recess into closed session for purposes permitted by the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code Section 551.001, to discuss items relating to personnel, Texas Government Code Section 551.074, or for the purpose to deliberate regarding security devices or security audits, Texas Government Code Section 551.076, or for the purpose of to deliberate the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property, including possible discussions with legal counsel related to the same. Texas Government Code Section 551.072, 551.071, and 551.129. Any action will be taken in open session. We will exit open session at 9:40 p.m. Trustees, take about a 5 or so minute break to hit that.
I was about to ask you for that warning.
We were